Chapter 985. I'm about to die, yet you're still willing to come. I know you want to tell me that everyone in the Song family deserves to die. The Shin family thinks that they're righteous. Song Jiang closed his eyes and placed his hands on his legs. I only remember crawling out from beside my father's and brother's corpses. I don't want to know anything else. My duty is only to protect the country, so I don't regret executing the Song family at all. However, I have to tell you two things. First, your father and brother had a batch of gold in their hands. At that time, because of the uneven distribution of the loot, they even quarreled. Second, before your father died, he begged me to kill you and let your brother go. You must know better than me why your father treated you like this. It's just that you chose to deceive yourself. You claim to have done something amazing for the sake of hatred and revenge, but you just want to prove yourself. Compared to your brother, you won't lose to him. Do you really hate the Shin family? Isn't your father the one you hate more? Song Jiang listened calmly with his eyes closed, as if what old Master Shin said was nonsense. However, the soft flesh deep in his heart was pinched in someone's hand. Song Jiang felt as if his heart had suddenly been torn open by someone. The winner takes all. You can say whatever you want now. Song Jiang shrugged. You should be very happy that I was defeated by my own son. You can destroy me without any effort. But let me tell you, old man Shen, I'm not dead yet. Even if I die, I won't let the Shin family off. Your father doesn't care about you. He left all the good things to your brother, and gave the woman you like to your brother. You're indignant and unwilling. Why do all the good things belong to your brother? So on the surface, you're avenging your family, but in fact you're indifferent to family love. You don't trust anyone. You even used your daughter and treated your son as a tool because you didn't get your father's true love since you were young. Shut up. Song Jiang couldn't take it anymore and shouted. Why doesn't your father like you? If it were me, I wouldn't like you either. Some people are born to be unable to do great things. Look at you now. Aren't you here? Old Master Shun ignored Song Jiang's emotions and continued to provoke him. And most importantly, you're going to die. You think you can bring honor to your ancestors and hold your head high in front of your father in the future, but you still can't escape the fate of being executed. I told you to shut up, you old thing. Song Jiang was completely enraged. He stood up from the chair, but he couldn't reach old Master Shun. If I were you, I wouldn't even want to be a ghost. After all, if I go down and see people, I'll be embarrassed. After saying that, Grandpa Shin put on his hood and left the visiting room. He wanted to directly destroy Song Jiang's heart, so that Song Jiang would have no desire to struggle. He wanted Song Jiang to recognize how ugly he was. Whether he lived or died, it was of no value to him. Chun to, old Shun to old to Shun to Shun to Shun to old to Shun to Shun to he. Of course, with Shin Jianchuan. When the old man came out, Chief Long said to the two of them, I used to think that physical torture was the best way to make a person speak. Only now do I realize how terrifying it is to destroy the heart. One could tell from Song Jiang's pained and crazy expression. He could endure the pain, but the entanglement and pain in his heart was like a blunt knife. It couldn't kill him in one strike, but it would grind against his flesh. I didn't expect the grudge from so many years ago to lead to so many cases. I am also guilty. Old Shun, don't say that. Chief Long replied immediately. Interrogate Song Jiang properly. Don't let those innocent lives die in vain. With that, Old Master Shun and Shin Jianchuan left the 9th Division together. The sky outside was gloomy and cold. Grandpa Shin looked up at the sky and suddenly felt a little helpless. Dad, let's go home. Our family is reunited. Grandpa Shin nodded. Soon, the father and son disappeared from the entrance of the 9th Division. According to Tang Yen, that night, Song Jiang confessed everything, including how he pretended to commit suicide and created the murders of those girls. In fact, he was using Changrong to recruit young girls. Then, in order to rope in power, he gave those young and beautiful girls to powerful people as gifts. When those girls were out of control, or rather, they were tired of being played with by the other party, a suicide case could cover up everything. Although Tang Yen and the others had long known that this would be the result, they still found it unbelievable when they heard Song Jiang say it. Human lives were toys and weapons in his hands. Even Song Buozhi and Song Qiaoji couldn't escape misfortune. After that, he also confessed to a few cases he had committed abroad, such as forcing Song Qiaoji's fiancée to death. All in all, the 9 rounds that night were quite fruitful. Old Cheng heard the news from Tang Yen at the branch office. He had gotten his revenge, but he didn't feel happy at all. This was because there were at least 10 lives in Song Jiang's hands. How many families were there? As police officers, they guarded the lights of thousands of families, but someone like Song Jiang could easily destroy so many reunions. This kind of person should be shot 10 times. The court knows how to sentence him, Tang Yen replied. Where's Song Buozhi? I don't believe he's innocent. Of course, Song Buozhi wasn't innocent, but when he went to the 9th Division to make an exchange with Chief Long, he had made the conditions clear. He could give Song Jiang all the evidence of his crimes, but Chief Long had to promise to keep him free. If an ordinary police officer were to face such a matter, they would never compromise, especially Tang Yen. A mistake was a mistake. Your father's mistake and your mistake were not the same thing. However, the 9th Division was involved in major cases. Keeping one person could be exchanged for the safety of many people. After weighing the pros and cons, they had the right to make such a decision. Don't sigh. At least Song Jiang was caught in the end. Tang Yen patted Old Cheng's shoulder. It's cold. Let's go back from work. It's time to find someone to warm your bed. Song Jiang was arrested, but Yashang Group did not close down. Song Buozhi knew that Jianchuan was not a place to stay for long, so he took the last capital of Yashang Group and emigrated abroad. Being disabled might be the biggest punishment for him. However, before he left, he sent someone to deliver a letter to Mu Qiqi. Little bride, don't let me see you next time. Otherwise, I won't be able to resist chasing after you. Mu Qiqi quietly tore the letter, because she could imagine how black someone's face would be if they saw it. Mu Qiqi also knew that Song Buozhi had done many evil deeds, but he had done a meritorious deed by reporting her father. Now he had even slipped away. Moreover, to be liked by such a scumbag, she just wanted to spit on him. Spit on what? Master Xiao asked as he took off his clothes behind her. Chapter 986. There's something in my mouth. Mu Qiqi quickly played dumb. Let me see. With that, Sheng Xiao turned Mu Qiqi's head around and kissed her. When Mu Qiqi couldn't breathe, he said, There's something. Xiao Xiao. What were you looking at just now? Do you think I didn't see it? Sheng Xiao was jealous. He hooked his arm around Mu Qiqi's neck and snorted. You only belong to me. Don't even think about it. Mu Qiqi rolled her eyes and expressed helplessness at Sheng Xiao's possessiveness. Speaking of which, we're not legally husband and wife yet. If it weren't for the fact that she was still in confinement, Sheng Xiao would have slapped her little butt. Can you repeat what you just said to me? Mu Qiqi did not have the guts. She shrunk her neck and used breastfeeding as an excuse to leave Sheng Xiao's sight. The two of them had been registered abroad for a long time, but the domestic law had yet to recognize them. Mu Qiqi's birthday was around the corner. Could it be that he, Sheng Xiao, couldn't change the marriage certificate even if he wanted to? Since she had already given birth to her daughter, she could forget about escaping. From that day onwards, Mu Qiqi felt that Sheng Xiao had been mysterious all day. Although he had helped her coax her daughter and carry the child as usual after he returned from Zhongting, she still felt that something was wrong. For this reason, she specially went to ask Mama Sheng after little Qi fell asleep. However, Mama Sheng said that she did not feel that there was anything different about Sheng Xiao, and told Mu Qiqi not to think too much. Mu Qiqi finally endured it until Sheng Xiao returned home. When she saw him carrying his daughter the moment he entered the door, Mu Qiqi suddenly exploded. I knew it. Now that you've entered the door, the first person you look at isn't me, Sheng Xiao said coldly. We're not legally husband and wife. Why should I carry you? Mu Qiqi was speechless. I was just joking with you. Did you have to be angry for half a month? Mu Qiqi suddenly felt very wronged. I'm not busy being angry. I'm just busy making our marriage a reality. With that, Sheng Xiao pointed at the marriage certificate on the bedside table with his chin. Mu Qiqi followed his gaze and was stunned. What's this? See for yourself. Mu Qiqi picked up the 2 red booklets and flipped open one of them. She was confused when she saw a silly photo of herself with Sheng Xiao. This is? Little Chi wants to register, so Dad and I went to move your household registration out of the Mu family. We also changed your age by 1 year. Grandpa Sheng went to the Civil Affairs Bureau and said that you're my wife now. So, I'm now Mrs. Sheng, who is recognized and protected by the law? Mu Qiqi found it unbelievable. It turned out that it could be done this way. This man was as treacherous as ever. He always had an endless stream of ideas. In my heart, you have always been the protected Mrs. Sheng. It was rare to hear Sheng Xiao say such sweet words. Mu Qiqi's face suddenly turned red. Come here. Mu Qiqi obediently returned to Sheng Xiao and was held in his arms. Are you happy now? It feels weird, like I'm getting married for the second time. Mu Qiqi's words successfully angered Sheng Xiao. A certain man's face darkened for another week. This was probably what it meant when they said that those who were favored had nothing to fear. Ever since her daughter was born, other than feeding her, Mu Qiqi had fifth aunt and Mama Sheng to take care of her for the rest of the time. As her biological mother, she had very little time to hold her daughter, especially when breast milk could be stored. Fifth aunt would ask her to store enough for a day. Then, she could lie in bed and rest well. It was the last few days of confinement. Mu Qiqi would feel uncomfortable at night, because if her daughter did not suck, she would feel that her milk was swelling. In the middle of the night, Mu Qiqi sat up from the bed. Sheng Xiao got up as well. What's wrong? Mu Qiqi shook her head and smiled bitterly. I want to feed my daughter. It's swelling here. Sheng Xiao lowered his head and looked at her, tugging at her pajamas. He pressed her down and said, Didn't you say that she would bite you? I still have to feed her. I'll take it as an invitation from you. With that, Sheng Xiao untied her pajamas, as if he was snatching food from his daughter. Mu Qiqi was stunned. This man really did not play by the rules. Didn't you ignore me for a week? I'm just preparing something. Sheng Xiao kept her in suspense. The two of them had been together for so long. Even though they had tattooed each other on their bodies, they did not have any intimate photos. In a few days, little Chi was going to take some photos, so Sheng Xiao had also arranged for him and the little one to take a few sets together to make up for their past regrets. Mu Qiqi was puzzled. She waited for a few more days. On the day that her confinement was over, Su Che picked her up and sent her to the best photography center in Jianchuan. A moment later, Mu Qiqi arrived at the reception center. Seeing that Sheng Xiao was already waiting there, she asked, Why didn't you bring your daughter here to take photos? It's not for her. It's for us. Sheng Xiao hugged her and said, It's too empty at home. There's no photo of us. Mu Qiqi was about to cry when she heard that. I'm so fat now. You want me to take photos? But to me, your current appearance is the most beautiful. Mu Qiqi immediately stopped crying and asked very seriously, Are you serious? It's fake. I'm just a woman. No matter how fat or thin she is, I'll just make do with it. Sheng Xiao deliberately teased her. You don't love me anymore. The photographer was smiling the whole time because he could see what a man was like when he loved a woman with all his heart. Therefore, when Sheng Xiao was changing, he dragged Mu Qiqi to the computer and enlarged Sheng Xiao's photo for her to see. Mrs. Sheng, your husband really loves you. How can you tell? Here. The photographer pointed at Sheng Xiao and tilted his head to look at Mu Qiqi's photo. In his eyes, you're the most beautiful reflection. Mu Qiqi's face suddenly turned red. So in his eyes she was actually like this. So, she couldn't help but cover her face. How could Sheng Xiao not love her? He simply loved her so much. When Sheng Xiao came out of the changing room, Mu Qiqi immediately pounced on him and hugged the man. Sheng Xiao frowned and looked down at Mu Qiqi. What's wrong? Nothing, I just suddenly discovered your secret. She had been with him since she was 17. Now the two of them were already parents. Their relationship did not seem to have changed. In the past few years, they only had each other. However, even though their daughter was born, the two of them had many things that they had not had time to do, such as taking photos and traveling. Sheng Xiao would soon let Mu Qiqi go back to school. However, before that, he only wanted to take her abroad for a sweet honeymoon. Time flew by. Soon 2 years had passed. Mu Qiqi, who had graduated from Shengting, had passed the national exam and officially become a forensic doctor. She had returned to the Jianchuan branch office. As for the little darling of the Sheng family, she was already 2 years old. Recently, the thing that gave Mu Qiqi a headache was that the child was very attached to Sheng Xiao at home and always ignored her, her biological mother. She could walk now and call for daddy and mommy. However, this child had liked to look at appearances since she was young. She acted cute and relied on her father. Therefore, recently, Sheng Xiao had fallen in love with getting off work early. The moment he returned home, he could see his daughter staggering to him. "Daddy, Daddy!" Sheng Xiao bent down to pick up little Qi and sat down on the sofa. At this time, little Qi would slide down from his legs and lean against his thigh as she sat on the floor and played with toys. As long as Sheng Xiao moved, she would cry. Mu Qiqi usually arrived home at 8 o'clock because before she went home, she would first disinfect herself and get rid of the smell on her body before entering the house. However, when she entered the house and saw her man being taken over, she was unhappy. "Little Qi, can you return daddy to mommy?" Little Qi pushed her away. "I don't want mommy. I want daddy. Daddy is mommy's." Little Qi kept shaking her head. "He's mine." Mu Qiqi stood up and glared at Sheng Xiao before returning to her room. She was not in a hurry. Anyway, someone would come to deal with her. Little Qi was doted on by the Sheng and Shen families. It could be said that she was doted on by thousands of people. However, the person she was most afraid of was old Master Shen, because he would poke her little face with his beard. In a while, Shen Jianchuan would come over and take little Qi over to stay for a few days. Sheng Xiao enjoyed watching the mother and daughter fight for a man's favor. He picked up little Qi and held her in his arms. "Little Qi, do you like daddy or mommy?" "Daddy." Little Qi was very sensitive to these two words. "But daddy likes your mommy the most." Sheng Xiao handed the little cutie to fifth aunt and instructed, "Don't give her too much sweets. We're going to the Shen family later. It's enough for her." "Okay." Fifth aunt took the little cutie and nodded. In this family, other than Sheng Xiao, little Qi was the most clingy to fifth aunt, followed by Mama Sheng. Mu Qiqi was barely the second last. Sheng Xiao saw that his daughter was not crying, so he walked back to the room. When he closed the door and saw Mu Qiqi sighing, he said, "Do you know that your charm is not enough? It's because I don't spend enough time with her." Mu Qiqi was also reflecting on herself. "But, you have to go to work like me. Why do you like our daughter so much?" "Because she likes handsome men, just like you." Sheng Xiao grabbed her and placed her on his lap. "It's because she's more like you that I love her so much. But everyone says that our daughter looks more like you," Mu Qiqi said as she wrapped her arms around Sheng Xiao's neck. After his daughter was born, Sheng Xiao went for the surgery because he had promised Mu Qiqi that he only wanted little Qi as his child. He had witnessed the birth of the little guy with his own eyes. For this, he had been angry with his daughter for a long time. Mu Qiqi was also very satisfied with this. With her daughter around, there would be someone to inherit the love between her and Sheng Xiao. Sheng Xiao caressed Mu Qiqi's hair and kept sighing. "This is my eldest daughter. The one outside is my youngest daughter." Chapter 987. You have such a heavy taste. Why are you sleeping with your daughter? Mu Qiqi snorted. Sheng Xiao hooked her chin and whispered in her ear. Could it be that someone has forgotten to call me daddy on a certain day in the past? Mu Qiqi broke free from his grasp and stood up from his embrace. The older you get, the more indecent you become. Sheng Xiao pulled her back and pressed her down on the sofa. Little Qi isn't here tonight. No one will snatch me from you. Speaking of this, Mu Qiqi was filled with bitterness and tears. Little Qi was already 2 years old, but she was too clingy to her father, so she always slept between her and Sheng Xiao at night. Although Sheng Xiao always quietly carried her to the small bed in the middle of the night, with such a little thing in the middle, they no longer had the mood to do anything else. Who wants to snatch you from her? Master Xiao, get this straight. I'm not even 25 years old this year. I still have a lot of young men looking at me. Is that so? Sheng Xiao leaned over and deliberately left a very clear kiss mark on her neck. I'm also very confused. Who in Jianchuan doesn't know that you're my woman? At this point, Mu Qiqi felt even more bitter. Other than the group of stinky men at the branch office, Mu Qiqi had never come into contact with any other men. Everyone knew that she was labeled as the stinky man. You win. You're amazing. Can you? Mu Qiqi was obviously unhappy. Your daughter loves you the most, and is the most clingy to you. Go and live with your daughter. But the one I love the most is you. Sheng Xiao propped himself up and looked at Mu Qiqi. You're still complaining. Not long after you came out of confinement, you applied to resume school. For the next 2 years, you were so busy every day. If I didn't understand you, and let you take care of the child when you went home after work, what would you do? But little Qi really doesn't kiss me. I'll just kiss you. With that, Sheng Xiao's kiss landed on Mu Qiqi's lips. I'll let you kiss me all you want tonight. The couple had not been intimate for a long time, so they got entangled on the sofa. It was as if Sheng Xiao had completely turned into a hungry wolf. He went from the bedroom to the bathroom, and from the bathroom back to the bed. He took Mu Qiqi over and over again, not giving her any time to rest. He had calculated that when his daughter went to the Shen family, he would ask her for the interest for the past 2 years. After he was done, Mu Qiqi looked out of the window and decided not to sleep anymore. It was almost dawn anyway. Thinking that she had to go to the police station for a drug test early in the morning, she propped herself up from the bed. Sheng Xiao put his arm around her waist and pulled her back to the bed. I've asked for leave for you. It's all your fault. You have no self-control. Mu Qiqi held her waist and felt that her legs were still trembling. You're almost breaking my bones. When Sheng Xiao heard Mu Qiqi's complaint, he pulled her back into his arms and hugged her tightly. No matter how much I love little Qi, you're my soul. Last night, I felt that my soul had returned to its place. Mu Qiqi immediately let go of her angry face. When little Qi comes back from the Shen family, let her sleep with fifth aunt. That's too harsh on her. Mu Qiqi couldn't bear to do it. She didn't have much time to spend with her daughter. If they slept together at night, she could still hug her daughter. If she really let little Qi sleep with fifth aunt, perhaps little Qi would call her auntie soon. Woman, your name is contradiction. Anyway, Sheng Xiao had asked for leave for Mu Qiqi, so she simply slept until noon. When she woke up, Sheng Xiao had already gone to Zhongting. This was the difference between men and women. They had clearly not slept all night, but men could still go to work in high spirits. When they arrived at the police station, Feng Shanshan saw that she was wearing a silk scarf and blinked at her. Did you come hard last night? A man who has been hungry for a long time is simply unreasonable. Mu Qiqi sat on the stool, feeling a little listless. Shanshan, quickly touch me. Do I have a fever? Feng Shanshan reached out and felt it. As expected, she said. It's not clear yet. I've already done the drug test. You can go back and rest today. Mu Qiqi's ears were buzzing. She couldn't hear what Feng Shanshan said at all before she fainted. Feng Shanshan was so scared that she quickly took out her phone and called Sheng Xiao. When Sheng Xiao heard that Mu Qiqi had fainted at the branch office, he immediately postponed the meeting and brought Mu Qiqi back to the Banyan courtyard. The family doctor came over to take a look and said to Sheng Xiao, CEO Sheng, you have to control yourself during sex. Madam is fine, but you have to pay attention to rest. Mu Qiqi had actually woken up a long time ago, but when she heard the doctor's words, she only wanted to find a hole to hide in. Who would have a fever because of such a thing? Not long after, Sheng Xiao asked fifth aunt to send the doctor away. He returned to the bedroom and sat by the bed. He sighed. From tomorrow onwards, no matter how busy you are, you have to keep exercising. You're the one who should control yourself, Mu Qiqi said with a red face. You even embarrassed me in front of the doctor. Sheng Xiao hugged her in his arms and kissed her forehead. Don't do this next time. If you have a fever, I'll be the one feeling sorry for you. Mu Qiqi buried her head in Sheng Xiao's arms, unable to say anything at this moment. The two of them were still the same as before they got married. No matter how mature and steady Sheng Xiao had become in front of outsiders, the way he doted on Mu Qiqi was almost the same as before. Sometimes it was even more than before. As for Mu Qiqi, because she was an official forensic doctor, She naturally had a cold and serious face when she was working. However, in front of Sheng Xiao, she was still the young girl who had a crush on him. All right, you can go back to Zhongting to work. I'll rest at home. Okay. Sheng Xiao kissed her forehead and placed her steadily on the bed. Mu Qiqi quickly fell asleep. However, when she woke up at night, she saw Sheng Xiao holding his computer and sitting on the sofa in a video conference. Mu Qiqi looked at the back of the man she admired and loved deeply. Her heart felt warm and satisfied. In the evening, Huang Yu sent little Qi back. This time, little Qi only lasted for 2 days and 1 night. As soon as the child returned home, she looked for her father everywhere. So Mama Sheng quickly sent her to Sheng Xiao and Mu Qiqi's bedroom. When the child saw her father, she immediately staggered over and hugged her father's thigh. Sheng Xiao picked up his daughter and said to her, "Mommy is sick. Little Qi can't be noisy. Can you promise, Daddy?" Little Qi looked at her father with her big eyes and nodded. "Little Qi, be good. Then if Mommy isn't feeling well, what should I do?" Little Qi turned her head and looked at Mu Qiqi, who was lying on the bed. Then, she slid down from Sheng Xiao's leg and ran to the bed. She wanted to climb onto the bed, but her legs were too short. When Sheng Xiao saw this, he helped her. However, little Qi climbed to Mu Qiqi's side and rubbed her little head against Mu Qiqi's neck. "Mommy!" Mu Qiqi immediately hugged the child and cried in satisfaction. "Good baby." Chapter 988. When little Qi was a little older, Sheng Xiao was much stricter with her. For example, he had to let the little child sleep in her own small room. Also, he would not let little Qi act coquettishly on him anymore. The boundaries were established bit by bit. Little Qi knew that her father was not like before, where she could be hugged anytime and anywhere. Fortunately, the other family members still loved her. So she quickly forgot about this matter and returned to being the happy little girl she used to be. However, she liked her father even more because a little girl's heart was always respectful and loving of her father. Sheng Xiao was more willing to spend time with Mu Qiqi. Recently, this person had been on the legal news because of her profession and gained a large number of fans. How could he not panic? Mu Qiqi could clearly feel the man's change. Although she knew that Sheng Xiao doted on her, her daughter was still so young. Mu Qiqi could not bear to be rejected by her father. "Little Qi is our daughter. Of course I love her, but that's different from the relationship between us. Because the person I'm going to spend the rest of my life with is you. So to me, the most important person in this life is also you. Little Qi will have her husband to love her in the future, but you only have me, and I only have you." From then on, Mu Qiqi stopped saying such things, because she knew that this man would know his limits. He could be a good husband and a good father. Recently, during the rainy season, there were many murders in Jianchuan. Mu Qiqi and Feng Shanshan did not relax for a moment in the laboratory. The body that had just been sent was a young man in his early 20s. He had fallen to his death. The family did not believe that the deceased had committed suicide. They asked the forensic doctor to perform an autopsy and give them an answer. However, the family did not tell the forensic doctor that their son had HIV. Therefore, when Feng Shanshan's blood test found that the deceased was sick, she quickly stopped Mu Qiqi and prevented her from performing an autopsy. "This person has an infectious disease." Mu Qiqi was stunned for a moment. Thinking of the glove she had just broken, she was a little nervous. "Don't touch me either." Mu Qiqi quickly pushed Feng Shanshan away. HIV did not lose its activity when the deceased died. Under certain conditions, even in harsh environments, it could still recover its activity and continue to replicate when it encountered lymphocytes. That was why Mu Qiqi was so nervous. "You go and disinfect first. I'll go talk to the family." Feng Shanshan pushed Mu Qiqi to the disinfection room, while she walked out of the lab to the waiting area for the family. "Although I understand that you want to find out the cause of your son's death, why didn't you tell us that he was infected? Is the life of a forensic doctor not a life in your eyes?" After the deceased's parents heard this, they were a little helpless. "We thought that since he was dead, it wouldn't be contagious anymore. Do you think a forensic doctor's life is made of iron or steel?" Feng Shanshan rolled her eyes. When Tang Yin heard this, He walked out of the deputy director's office. He looked at Feng Shanshan and asked, "What happened?" "The deceased was just sent over. The blood was still warm, so we asked little Seven to do an autopsy. In the end we found AIDS." The couple didn't say anything. "Let's go see Xiaoqi first. I'll handle this." Tang Yin patted her shoulder to suppress the anger in her heart. "You better pray that there are no wounds on my colleague's hands." With that, Feng Shanshan returned to the lab and carefully examined Mu Qiqi's hands. "It's a blessing in disguise, but there are children at home. Go home and disinfect them properly tonight." "I'm not going home tonight. I've already called Master Xiao just now. I'll sleep in Zhongting's office for 2 days," Mu Qiqi said. "What if there are any wounds that I didn't notice? The little girl likes to kiss me recently. I don't want to regret it. It's not that I'm saying this, but these people are really wicked." Feng Shanshan was dissatisfied. "I'll take out the body first and deal with it before dissecting it." Mu Qiqi knew that Feng Shanshan was worried, so she smiled and shook her head. "It's fine. Isn't there a special research studio under the CEO? Let him take you to do the examination and disinfection." "Got it." Mu Qiqi nodded. In the evening, Sheng Xiao personally drove to the branch office to pick Mu Qiqi up from work. After knowing about the AIDS, he immediately sent Mu Qiqi to the research lab under Zhongting. This research lab existed for Mu Qiqi. Most of the things that were developed were for Mu Qiqi's convenience. After that, Sheng Xiao applied for the patent and put them into production. "Don't touch me before the results are out." Sheng Xiao did not care about her. The two of them were one, so there was nothing to avoid. "There's nothing on your body that I can't touch." Sheng Xiao held her hand and did not allow her to refute. He directly sent her to the laboratory. After 2 hours of examination and disinfection, the researchers sent Mu Qiqi back to Sheng Xiao's side. "CEO Sheng, don't worry. We've already thoroughly disinfected Madam. Moreover, she won't be infected with the virus." Sheng Xiao held Mu Qiqi's hand and brought her out of Zhongting. "Are you relieved now? If you're really infected, at most will be 1. Anyway, we just need little Qi. But I still don't want to go home tonight. I want to go to your office," Mu Qiqi said as she tugged at Sheng Xiao's arm. "You want to sleep in the office? Can I take it as an invitation?" Sheng Xiao suddenly turned his head and smiled at the little woman beside him. "It's not impossible, but I'll stay with you. You're really not afraid of death at all." Mu Qiqi could not persuade him. The couple did not go home that night. Although Mu Qiqi felt that it was indeed a little too much, only those who had come into contact with this profession and this virus would know what kind of feeling it was in their hearts at that moment. It would be a lie to say that she was not afraid of death. She had a happy and beautiful family. She did not want to lose everything because of this. With this lesson, she had to be more careful in the future. Sheng Xiao, on the other hand, looked indifferent. He looked as if he would go to heaven and hell together in life and death. Mu Qiqi was very helpless, but she also loved him very much, because she knew that even if she was infected with an infectious disease and had an incurable disease, Sheng Xiao would never give up on her. Late at night, when they were resting, Sheng Xiao pressed her against the bathroom and kept kissing her as if he wanted to tell Mu Qiqi, "As long as I'm here, even if the king of hell wants to, he won't take you away because I'll snatch you from him. You're always so domineering," Mu Qiqi replied as she wrapped her arms around his neck. "So, you have to accompany me until I'm 70 or 80. With that, Sheng Xiao forcefully took Mu Qiqi and let her feel his presence in the misty bathroom. "Don't let your imagination run wild anymore. Otherwise, I'll make sure you can't get out of bed tonight." Chapter 989. The saddest thing in life was to have a baby face that looked like he was in his early 20s, when he was already in his early 30s. As the chief assistant of Zhongting's CEO, Su Che's annual income was 7 figures, and he had a house and a car. He should be at the age to start a family, but he did not even have a girlfriend. As the little princess of the Sheng family grew up, he came home earlier and earlier. That meant that Su Che had more and more free time. In fact, it was Mu Qiqi's intention. Su Che should have found someone to accompany him a long time ago. It was another boring night when Su Che was called home for dinner by his big brother. In fact, It was to arrange a blind date for him. The other party was an English teacher who had studied abroad. He heard that Su Che was a good man and wanted to meet him, but he quickly got up and left when he saw Su Che. Rumor had it that Su Che was already 32 years old, but the young man in front of him had just reached adulthood. Although he was handsome, but what women could not stand the most was looking older than the people around them, which was why he left immediately. Brother, can you not make such arrangements? Su Che was helpless. I'm thinking about your happiness. A voice came from the kitchen. Where's Yang Yang? Su Che changed the topic and looked around for his nephew. He's been addicted to games and doesn't even eat. Su Che answered while cooking. Su Che pushed open the door to his nephew's room and saw him fumbling with his phone. Woo! I dropped stars again. The well-behaved little boy jumped up when he saw Su Che. Quick, help me play games, help me rank, help me get stars. Su Che took the phone with a frown. The child had been addicted to mobile games recently. Kings of Glory was a very popular game recently. Adults and children could play a game, as long as they sat on the sofa for half an hour. It was indeed very relaxing. He was Zhongting's assistant after all, and had extraordinary skills. But now, he was being suppressed by his nephew to play games? If I help you get stars, will you eat obediently? Su Che asked the child in his arms. Tick. Su Che put the child down and looked at the game's controls seriously. What hero do you usually use? Lu Ban. The child scratched his head and laughed. Because he's a primary school student. He fits my temperament. Su Che shook his head helplessly. Then, he saw Han Xian in his hero pool. You spent money? Of course not. I had to save up diamonds for a long time before I got a crystal to exchange for it. The child hurriedly explained. Recently, a big sister added me as a friend because she said I'm a cute noob. She even invited me just now. I don't want to play with her. Su Che sat down on the child's bed and saw someone pulling him up. Her in-game nickname was Win or Not, and her avatar was a cute little chubby girl. This was probably what the kids were talking about. Su Che agreed to form a team and entered the hero selection interface. Kid's hero pool was very small, probably because he didn't have much pocket money. Other than Arthur Luban, there was only Han Xian. Usually, the child had been practicing with Lu Ban, so Han Xian had almost no proficiency. Su Che instantly chose Han Xian. When the child saw it, he immediately panicked. Uncle, you know how to do it, right? Are you Han Xian? Your dad is calling you. Hurry up and go. Su Che didn't like people chattering nonstop beside him when he was playing games, so he sent the child away. Then play well. I can't drop again. The child instructed Su Che as he went out. How could he drop a silver game? Su Che didn't say anything. At that moment, he saw a faint message from the 5th floor. Brat, you've grown up. You chose Han Xian? Hurry up and switch back to Little Litten. Not only that, but she also instantly chose Li Bai. Su Che didn't move at all. He didn't intend to pay attention to the other party. Good boy, switch back to an elementary school student. I'll carry you. The other 3 floors followed. Damn, he's really an elementary school student. Let's do a 6-pointer. The 2 assassins will definitely lose. That was how low-end games were. Su Che completely pretended not to see it. He wanted to directly block the game. But for some reason, when he saw Li Bai, Su Che resisted the urge to block it and waited until the game started. After the game started, Su Che saw Li Bai squatting in the grass with the blue buff and said a long string of words to Su Che. Elementary school student. Follow me or just hide in the grass. It's safe that way. Su Che couldn't take it anymore and replied, You talk too much. With that said, Su Che went straight to the enemy's jungle and squatted in the grass by the river. When the other assassins were almost done fighting, he went forward and used punishment to take away the duff. Then he jumped back into the river without looking back. As it was a low-end game, there was almost no cooperation between teammates. Therefore, as long as the other party was slightly aware, they could directly approach the high ground in 6 minutes. During the entire process, his teammates were cursing. Han Xian is trash. He doesn't even join the team. Han Xian is an assassin. He doesn't even know how to catch people. Everyone is dead, but Han Xian is still fighting in the jungle. However, at that moment, Li Bai stood up and said to the other 3 teammates, "So what if he's an elementary school student? Aren't you guys still in the silver game? I brought the elementary school student here. I'll be the one scolding him. Who do you think you are? I'm not playing anymore. Hang up." The 3 teammates all started AFK together without even discussing it with each other. Then, Li Bai stood under the tower with deep resentment. A group of adults are even inferior to my little Litten. Even elementary school students know not to give up. Suche, little Litten, be good. This round is over. We still have the next round. Suche persisted in fighting in the jungle. Soon, he took out his 3rd piece of equipment and began to squat in all sorts of places to kill the other party's fragile opponents. 1 kill, 2 kills. Even if 4 people hung up, he wouldn't lose so easily. Right on the heels of that, he snatched the dragon from the dominator's position and drained all the other party's HP before returning home. Then, he took the next route and broke through all the way to the other party's 2nd tower. If the other party came, 1 would die. If 2 came, 2 would die. And just like that, Li Bai stood under his own crystal and saw Suche's beauty. "Boo-hoo, you're not the little Litten I know. Who are you?" 15 minutes later, the game ended. The 3 people who had hung up were probably dumbfounded. They had actually won inexplicably. Then, Suche returned the phone to his nephew to show off his achievements. "Can we eat properly now?" The little kid was happy to see his achievements and said to Suche, "Let me tell you a secret. This little sister is the lady boss of the dessert shop at the entrance of the residential area. She's a little chubby but very cute. If you think she's not bad, marry her and make her my aunt. It's okay if she's a little chubby. The most important thing is that the desserts at her house are really delicious." Suche, was this child a devil? He would betray his uncle's happiness for food? Even so, when Suche left his brother's residential area, he still paid special attention to the dessert shop at the entrance. The shop was called Orange's Nest. The decoration was bright and cute in the style of youth. As expected, it was very popular with children. Suche subconsciously looked inside and saw a girl with her hair tied up in a bun sitting on a chair playing games. She was indeed chubby, but her skin was surprisingly good. She looked a little round and cute. He also recognized the avatar in the game. It was her. In the middle of winter, Suche stood at the entrance of the dessert shop. After a while, he saw 2 shop assistants walk out with small pieces of Napoleon cake in their hands. "Sir, do you want to try it?" Suche took the small piece of dessert and put it in his mouth. No wonder the child liked it. "Give me 1. I'll take it away." "Okay, sir. Please follow me." Suche followed behind the dessert shop assistant, but his gaze was on the seat by the window. Wasn't she afraid that the shop would collapse if she was so addicted to games? "Sir, our strawberry cake is also very delicious. Give me 1 piece each." Suche didn't know where his curiosity came from. He actually had such a strong interest in that round little Li Bai. He felt that he must have been possessed. So after getting the cake, he turned around and left. However, at that moment a man came in. Then, Suche heard the sound of someone slamming the table. "Xiao Yi, what do you mean? You said you would give me 100,000 yuan. Where's the money? You're very good at raising a gigolo. Why are you so stingy when it comes to your family?" Suche turned around and saw that the girl had finally put down her hands and stood up. "I worked hard to earn money. I'm willing to give it to whoever I want." "You raised a gigolo. He likes you, so I won't say anything. He's just using you, you know? You sent him to participate in professional player training. You spent a lot of money, but what happened in the end? After he became popular, would he still recognize you?" The man was tall and thin, but he was capable and strong. He grabbed the girl's hand and kept pulling it. "It's because you're fat. I told you to eat less and give me the money, but you didn't listen." The girl's eyes were red. She wanted to break free from the man's shackles, but the difference in strength between a man and a woman was too great. "Give me the money. I'll leave if I give you the money." "I didn't." The girl cried out. When the man heard this, he wanted to hit her, but Suche grabbed his wrist. "You shouldn't hit a woman." The man looked at Suche's baby face and immediately smiled. Kid, how old are you? You should learn to mind your own business now. Before he could say the word, mind your own business, the man's body had already flown out of the dessert shop. Xiao Yi and her phone widened their eyes as they watched this scene. Was he some kind of Superman? However, Su Che's face was calm as he asked Xiao Yi, "Are you okay?" Xiao Yi held her wrist and shook her head. "Thank you, I'm fine. You should call the police." "The police can't do anything about it. Although I don't want to admit it, he's my brother. I've let you see a joke today," Xiao Yi said to Su Che apologetically. Xiao Yi said to Su Che apologetically, "To express my apology, I'll give you all the pastries in the shop today." Su Che didn't care about her pastries. He just looked at her phone that had fallen to the ground and said, "You're about to be reported." Xiao Yi immediately squatted down. "Ah, my advancement match. So what was this called?" She could give away the cake, but she couldn't lose the game? Moreover, she had just been caused trouble by her gangster brother. Now all her attention was on the game? Did all the fat people in the world have this kind of special ability? Did they forget things especially quickly? However, it was quite cute. Please remember the domain name of this book. Com. Wonderful Book House's mobile version. Com. Chapter 990. Su Che's extravagance too. Acting cool failed. Her name was Xiao Yi. She wasn't fat in the past. She knew how to make authentic European-style pastries, and was once a high-class pastry chef in a 7-star hotel. However, ever since she met a scumbag, her life had undergone earth-shattering changes. Because the other party was a gaming genius, she spent money to send this scumbag to the best professional team training, making him famous. However, the night he received the trophy, he rolled into bed with his new lover. From then on, she was unable to recover. She opened a dessert shop, played games on a daily basis, and tried out the new products. Soon she became like this. However, because the taste of the cake was too good, even if she opened a dessert shop casually, it would still be very popular. In order to stop the customers, Xiao Yi thought of a method to limit the number of customers. However, it still did not stop the endless stream of customers. Instead, it became even more famous in the vicinity. Everyone knew that the lady boss of the dessert shop gave up her business in order to play games. She was very awesome. The owners of the 2 fast food restaurants nearby saw that her business was booming and wanted her to take over their shops. However, the lady boss said, "Expand the shop? Not interested." Was this the legendary Buddhist way of doing business? Xiao Yi's family had a prodigal brother who would come to cause trouble from time to time. However, ever since he was sent flying by the little brother last time, he had never come again. She didn't know if he was recuperating at home. Thinking of the little brother that night, Xiao Yi couldn't help but sneer at herself. He should be a little brother. She was already 27 years old, and the other party was at most in his early 20s. Thinking of this, Xiao Yi opened the Honor of Kings game interface again, and found that her little disciple was actually online. Win or not? Little Litten, are you ranked? Jiba Primary School. Don't call me Little Litten. I know Han Xian. Win or not? Tell me honestly, you weren't the one who beat Han Xian that night, right? Xiao Yi pouted. This primary school student had actually learned to ask for help. Jiba Primary School. It's my uncle. Handsome, right? Let me tell you, he knows how to jump on roofs and walk on walls. I admire him the most. Win or not? Do you think your uncle is a gecko? Jiba Primary School. My dad is in retreat. Xiao Yi looked at little Litten's blackened profile picture, and suddenly thought of that night. The little brother in the brown windbreaker had sent her scumbag brother flying with one kick. Could it be that there really was a Superman in this world? Just as Xiao Yi was thinking about it, she saw Superman come to her door again. This time, he was wearing a white down jacket and looked like a high school student. It was good to be young. It's you again. I'm really sorry that I didn't get to thank you properly that night. Su Che glanced at Xiao Yi and found that she was quite normal today. She chatted and laughed with him as she worked at the cashier. Give me a chocolate cake. I still have $3 left. You can take them all. I'll only charge you. As Xiao Yi packed for him, she said, "Seeing how handsome you are, I'm guessing you're no more than 22, but your skills are actually so good. After hearing Xiao Yi's words, Suche was stunned. Then, he took out his ID from his wallet and handed it to Xiao Yi. Xiao Yi took the ID card with a dumbfounded expression. After taking a look, her attitude became respectful. "Big brother, I'm sorry. Actually, I'm not that old," Suche said lightly as he took back the ID card. "Your chocolate cake is packed. Please take care." Xiao Yi quickly stuck out her tongue. Who would have thought that such a handsome guy who looked so fresh and tender was actually 32 years old? Those people who had been injected with hyaluronic acid would probably die of anger when they saw Suche. Suche didn't say anything else. He took the cake and turned to push open the glass door of the dessert shop. These things were all to be dedicated to his little nephew. When the little kid saw that Suche had bought so many cakes, he naturally flew into the sky. What a joke. Although that lady was a little chubby, her cake was really super delicious. "Uncle, you're really capable. You bought so many at once. Do you know that this cake is limited? One person can only buy one." Was that so? Suche didn't know this rule. After all, the person who delivered the cake was always so generous. Last time, he even said that he would give him all the pastries in the shop. "Uncle, go chase after that lady. That way, I can eat as much as I want. I'm so envious." The little kid sighed as he nibbled on the cake. "Do you really want me to chase after her?" Suche sat on his little bed and asked seriously. "Yes, I support you 100%. The child raised his hand and swore. "Actually, she's quite cute. If she can lose weight, she should be a great beauty." Suche raised his eyebrows and said to the child, "Then contribute your game account." Huh. The child was suddenly depressed. However, he could register another game account. But if he missed the delicious cake, it would be someone else's. Therefore, the child endured the pain and contributed his Heba primary school. Suche got the account and logged in. Sure enough, he saw that Win or Not was also online. Moreover, it had been 3 minutes since the start of the match. Suche entered her page and looked at her commonly used heroes. He found that she specifically chose Li Bai and Luna. These were difficult challenges, but her winning rate was less than 20%. This was probably in line with the legend of a fierce tiger. At a glance, he saw that her record was 0-5. Suche waited for a moment. In less than 10 minutes, he invited Win or Not. There was a response immediately. "Little Litten, you're online? Are you hiding in bed to play? Can I not choose Li Bai?" Suche casually chose Little Luban and asked her. "Then I choose Luna?" Heba primary school. In order to prevent Xiao Yi from choosing these two heroes, he quickly left and immediately used money to buy these two heroes. Then he chose Li Bai himself. "Win or Not? Is the primary school student throwing a tantrum with me? Alright then, I'll give Li Bai to you. I'll still use Luna." When the other players saw this, they trembled. They could only hope that their two teammates wouldn't cheat them, okay? After the start of the match, Xiao Yi successfully lost a HP. Moreover, she died fighting the tower. Her teammates mocked her one after another. "Damn, I encounter such a sinkhole every day. It's over. Don't tell me Li Bai is also an idiot?" Li Bai, who was fighting in the enemy's jungle, was awe-inspiring at this moment. Seeing this, Xiao Yi immediately understood that this person was not her little disciple, but her uncle. 5 minutes later, Xiao Yi confirmed her guess because Li Bai's current record had already put 8 heads in his pocket. Therefore, she could not help but hang up. "Little Litten, you're no longer the Little Litten I know. I'm going to blacklist you." Then, a game came out, and Suche found that he had been blacklisted. From this, his curiosity about Xiao Yi grew even stronger. What kind of girl was she? Because he had been blacklisted, the account was useless. So Suche returned the account to the little brat. "Brother-in-law, don't tell me you failed to act cool?" Suche thought to himself. "Why don't I go straight to the shop to look for her? But wouldn't that be too abrupt? I can only say that Miss Xiao Yi has a very interesting soul." End of this chapter. Chapter 991. After much consideration, Suche still didn't do that, because he didn't have the status or reason to do so. However, the number of times he came to the dessert shop had obviously increased. When he had nothing to do, he would come over to buy pastries. And because Xiao Yi was his benefactor, She would break her own principles every time and give Suche a lot of pastries. In the end, Suche's little brat actually gained a few pounds. Big brother Su strictly protested against Suche's behavior. If this continued, the child at home would soon get diabetes. If it weren't for the child's game, Suche might never have had any interaction with the dessert shop owner. They were people from different worlds, but Suche had a lot of curiosity about Xiaoyi. However, in the past few days, Xiaoyi hadn't appeared in her dessert shop. This made Suche feel an unprecedented sense of loss. Some people, if you saw them every day, you wouldn't feel that they were important. It was only when she suddenly disappeared one day that Suche figured out something. Because of curiosity, he seemed to have developed a different kind of attention and feelings for this girl. "Handsome, you're here again?" The shop assistant smiled brightly at him. After all, he was an old customer. In addition, he had a good temperament, so the shop assistant was usually more polite to him. "I haven't seen your lady boss in the past few days?" Suche pretended to ask casually. The lady boss went to watch some Kings of Glory professional competition. "What's it called?" "KPL. I heard that her ex-boyfriend is in one of the teams. I don't know why she still went. Isn't this reminiscent?" The shop assistant answered as she cashiered. Suche got the answer, and also checked the recent situation of the KPL competition. This girl didn't seem to be afraid of getting hurt. If it were another woman, her ex-boyfriend would definitely smash the game console when he saw it after breaking up. But she seemed to be heartless. Suche took the pastries and returned to his high-class apartment. Looking at the clean furnishings in his house, he suddenly felt a little lonely. Although there were no tickets for the recent KPL competitions, with his status, it wouldn't be difficult for him to get one. Therefore, after work the next day, he didn't go to the dessert shop again. Instead, he took the ticket for the competition and entered the arena of the esports hall. While the host on stage was still talking nonsense, Suche turned around and looked for the slightly plump figure. He thought that it would be a little difficult, but under the huge banner, he saw Xiaoyi at a glance. Everyone else was here to cheer for their idols. She, on the other hand, was holding a huge banner just to curse the members of a certain professional team. The surrounding audience were all discussing, but she didn't seem to care at all. Suche chuckled, got up from his seat, and walked to Xiaoyi's side. Xiaoyi turned her head and saw that there was someone behind her. She immediately said in surprise, "Why is it you, little brother?" "I'm here to watch the competition, but I was attracted by your huge poster. I realized you were an acquaintance, so I came to say hello." Suche sat down beside her. "I noticed that you haven't been in the shop for a few days. Have you been here?" "Okay." Xiaoyi rubbed her cold hands and nodded. "I'm here to cheer for that scumbag. It's been a while since the KPL competition. I don't want to go to other cities. It's a waste of my plane ticket money." Xiaoyi was so cold that she was trembling. The two of them were chatting when the security guard walked up and said to Xiaoyi awkwardly, "Miss, you've been holding such a banner for several days in a row. It's really a bad influence on us. Can you please be magnanimous? Take this thing away. Since you've accepted the money, as long as I don't bring any dangerous items, it's none of your business," Xiaoyi said indifferently. "But if you do this, it won't look good for everyone, right?" The security guard was extremely helpless. How did he meet such a brainless weirdo? "You really don't have to waste your energy on me. I won't take this banner." When the security guard heard this, his temper immediately flared up. "We'll refund your money. Can you please leave? Miss, can you please show some respect to the people here? This isn't your private backyard where you can vent your emotions at will. Perhaps I can also tell you where the backstage is. You can go and argue with him personally. Don't affect other people's moods, okay? Put it away," Suche said from beside her. "Using such a clumsy method won't be able to punish the person you want to punish. Why let others laugh at you? What do you want? I can help you. I want to go up and slap that bastard. Can you help me? If this can calm you down, I can help you go backstage." Suche tried his best to tell her calmly. Suche tried his best to be calm as he told her. "Since it's punishment and revenge, of course you can't hurt yourself, right? Can you really help me?" Xiaoyi looked at Suche expectantly. "Yes. After getting Suche's answer, Xiaoyi finally put away the huge banner. No one wants to do such an embarrassing thing. But I'd rather be embarrassed than let that bastard have an easy time. There are many ways. For example, publicizing that bastard's shameless actions, or finding someone to secretly beat him up, or finding someone to seduce his current girlfriend and cheat on him. At the very least, sleeping with his coach and becoming his master's wife. When Xiaoyi heard this, she immediately laughed out loud. What kind of rotten idea is that? That's better than you attracting a crowd here, right? I've sponsored that bastard for 3 years, turning him from a poor loser into a millionaire. I really didn't expect that the first thing he did after he became famous was to kick me away. When Xiaoyi spoke of this matter, her eyes were red, but under the powerful spotlights in the venue, it was not obvious. From now on, he's high and mighty, and I'm just a pastry chef. It's very difficult for me to even meet him, let alone seek revenge. Then guess what I do? Suche quickly diverted her attention. Model? Xiaoyi asked him. No, you're so skilled. You should be in a profession related to martial arts. Coach? Bodyguard? Don't tell me you're a martial arts actor? You guessed right. I'm a professional bodyguard, Suche replied. Then aren't you really good at fighting? Xiaoyi became excited. Can you fight 1 against 5? If you're referring to the weak chickens in the competition, I really envy you. No one will dare to bully you. I also hope to become like you. Xiaoyi lowered her head and sighed. Her tone was filled with unconcealable disappointment. Why do you have to become stronger? Just find a strong boyfriend, and you'll get it done in one go, right? Suche suddenly turned his head and looked at Xiaoyi. Actually, I'm that little bastard's uncle. Please remember the domain name of this book. Com. Wonderful Book House's mobile version. Com. Chapter 992. Suche was just a bodyguard. Xiaoyi's mouth instantly turned into an O shape, because the awkward thing was that she had blocked him a few days ago. Are all bodyguards so good at games? Hehe. After saying that, Xiaoyi wanted to slip away, but she was held back by Suche. Don't you want to go backstage and slap that scumbag? She did want to, but she didn't want to get into trouble. The man in front of her looked like he wasn't someone to be trifled with. I don't have any ill intentions. Suche quickly clarified. I discovered it in the game because I was helping my nephew play casually. Can you really help me meet that scumbag? Xiaoyi sat back down and asked Suche. You can look forward to it, Suche said with a smile. Ever since she broke up with that scumbag, Xiaoyi had become completely immune to men. As long as she saw a man, she instinctively thought of deception and betrayal. Therefore, after finding out that little Liden's account was his uncle, Xiaoyi immediately blocked him. She was also very wary of Suche. Men were bastards, right? However, for some reason, she couldn't help but feel a sense of trust towards the man in front of her. She had clearly only seen him a few times. She didn't know if the heavens had heard her prayers. In this finals, the scumbag's team had actually lost. Xiaoyi was so excited that she almost jumped up. The heavens really had eyes. When the competition was about to end, Suche suddenly said to Xiaoyi, Let's go backstage. Are you serious? Xiaoyi looked at him in disbelief. You'll know when you get there. But their backstage is very strict. If you're not a staff member, you can't enter at all. Xiaoyi followed behind Suche and said loudly to him. She had already tried many times to find that scumbag, but the backstage security directly kicked her out of the door. Suche didn't answer her. Instead, he walked in front of her. When they were backstage, he asked Xiaoyi, Which team is that scumbag in? RS. Xiaoyi blurted out. Then, Suche communicated with the person in charge of the venue. After a few minutes, Suche walked in front of her and said, You can go in now. You aren't joking? Xiaoyi pointed at the entrance and asked. Try it. Xiaoyi carefully walked up the passageway and found that the security guards on both sides really ignored her. Xiaoyi was instantly excited. She walked to the lounge of each team, and RS was the last one. However, just as she approached the lounge, Xiaoyi saw an acquaintance at the door. After all, catching him in the act of adultery was deeply engraved in his heart. The little girl standing in front of the lounge door was the scumbag's cheating partner. a game streamer in the live streaming circle. Seeing Xiao Yi, the other party was also very surprised. However, a moment later, she revealed a mocking expression. You're really haunting me. You caused trouble for Nan on the field, and did all kinds of embarrassing things. Now, you can still find your way backstage. I'm going to look for security. After speaking, the red-haired girl ran towards the security guard. However, the security guard ignored her. I'm sorry, Miss Zhong. This lady is a friend of the curator. I don't have the right to chase her away. She's a liar, you know? She's just a pastry chef. Are you sure she didn't fish in troubled waters? I'm sorry, Miss Zhong. The security guard didn't dare to disobey the curator's order. I'll go look for Nan. The girl was afraid that Xiao Yi would do something even more outrageous. She wanted to escape, but Xiao Yi grabbed the corner of her shirt. You should apologize to me for what happened a few years ago, right? I don't understand what you're talking about. The girl broke free from Xiao Yi's grip and tilted her head to the side. You don't understand? When you were with Mo and Nan, you should have known that he had a girlfriend, right? Fat girl, I'm really not mocking you. Look at you now. Do you think Nan can eat a piece of fat meat like you? The other party couldn't refute the fact that she was a mistress, so she launched a personal attack on Xiao Yi. I have nothing to say to you. I just want an apology. Is it that hard? I have no intention of snatching the scumbag back. I'll give him to you directly, but I want you to apologize to me. Xiao Yi was very stubborn. She wanted the other party to apologize, but she didn't have the capital to make the other party apologize. I'm not apologizing. You damn fatty, let go. Hearing this, Su Che, who was standing at the door, finally walked behind the two of them and asked Xiao Yi, You can't even get an advantage like this? I'm just not as shameless as these people. Su Che guessed that this was the case. After this girl was injured, she couldn't find the right channel to vent. But she couldn't turn herself into a queen of revenge, ruthless and merciless. Therefore, he glanced at the other party and found that the girl had the logo of a certain live streaming platform on her. Are the standards of live streaming platforms so low these days? After saying that, Su Che stopped Xiao Yi and said, You don't have to waste your breath on her. If you really know shame, you wouldn't have done something like snatching someone's love. I happen to know the boss of their platform. Wait a minute, I'll give him a call. Xiao Yi, the other party. After Su Che finished speaking, he took out his phone. He didn't have any other hobbies, so he more or less had some gaming resources. The girl didn't believe that Xiao Yi's friend would know some big CEO, so she wasn't afraid of Su Che's words until Su Che picked up the call. Old merchant. Old Su, why do you have time to call me? The other party seemed very excited. Your platform has a streamer named Wang Ruai. Can you ban that live streaming room? I'll pay for the breach of contract. What breach of contract? This is a small matter. Don't worry. Our platform won't want someone who has eyes but can't see. I'll deal with her immediately and help you vent your anger. Su Che's expression didn't change, but the phone was on speakerphone. After a short call, Su Che put down his phone with a calm expression. A minute later, Wang Ruai's phone rang. She picked up the phone in fear. Then, she slid down, and the company directly informed her to close down her live streaming room. It hadn't been easy for her to achieve her results, and it hadn't been easy for her to accumulate popularity. Because of a phone call from the other party, all her years of hard work had gone down the drain. Seeing her ugly expression, Xiao Yi turned to look at Su Che with a questioning expression. However, Su Che shrugged and said to her, Just now, the director told me that after the RS team's competition ended, they left in a car. Because they were eliminated, you probably won't be able to see them today. However, I guarantee that they will definitely look for you because of this woman. Xiao Yi's mouth once again formed an O shape. You. Who exactly are you? A phone call can decide a person's life and death. I don't believe that you're just a bodyguard. I'm just a bodyguard. Su Che spread his hands, indicating that he was innocent. It was just that the person he was protecting was not ordinary. End of this chapter. Chapter 993. Su Che's Extra 5. You're not fit to call me by my name, Xiao. He didn't believe Su Che's nonsense at all. How could a bodyguard have a friend like the owner of the dojo and also be brothers with a domineering president? You're protecting the president, right? Su Che could not deny that. After all, Sheng Xiao was someone who could stand shoulder to shoulder with the president. No matter what, thank you for today. I didn't get to see the scumbag man. Beating the bitch up was also very satisfying. Maybe you think I'm a lunatic? It's very late now, I'm going home. Thank you, big bodyguard. I'll see you off. No need, I'm driving. Xiaoyi waved the car key in her hand. Come to my shop tomorrow. I'll treat you to the best food. Su Che didn't force her. He only sent Xiaoyi to the entrance of the venue and watched her drive away before he felt relieved. Su Che really didn't understand Xiaoyi. On the surface, she seemed carefree, as if she was very casual about everything. However, for some reason, Su Che had a strong premonition. Such a girl's heart must have been thoroughly tempered. Otherwise, how could she be as firm as a rock? When she returned home, Xiaoyi immediately locked herself in the dark living room. She never opens the curtains, because she is used to the darkness. In the few years that she was abandoned by that scumbag, she had suffered a lot and suffered from all kinds of mental illnesses. The reason why her body was fat was because of the side effects of taking medicine. She couldn't accept it, and she couldn't forgive him, so she trapped herself in this small space. It seemed that this was the only way she wouldn't be cheated and betrayed. The feeling of being hurt by love could only be understood by those who had experienced it. As she cried, she laughed, and as she laughed, she suddenly burst into tears. Xiaoyi felt like she was a walking corpse. She had tried all kinds of ways to save herself, but to this day, she still couldn't extricate herself from the whirlpool of betrayal. Su Che was outside Xiaoyi's house. He watched as Xiaoyi entered the small courtyard, but the lights in the house were not on. He could see a faint figure in the house under the streetlight. Did she like the dark? Filled with curiosity, Su Che drove home. But lying on the bed at home, he couldn't fall asleep. This was because Xiaoyi was really a strange girl. It was as if she was wearing layers of masks, making people want to unveil her layer by layer. There was even a moment when Su Che felt that Xiaoyi was a little abnormal. How badly was she injured? Lying on the bed, Su Che really wanted to know the answer. But after tossing and turning, he could only think of one person, and that was Xiaoyi's brother. Perhaps this hoodlum could give him an answer. The next day, after Su Che got off work, he found out where Xiaoyi's brother lived and drove to the small shop. Compared to his sister's talent, Xiaoyi's brother could only rely on selling some small department stores to make a living. However, he was a gambler. After losing the bet, he didn't dare to tell his wife about it, so he could only look for his sister. This man was called Xiao Tong. After being kicked by Su Che that day, he had to lie in bed for 2 days. When he was finally able to get out of bed, he did not expect to see the nightmare of Su Che again. Seeing that the other party was about to run, Su Che quickly went forward to stop him. I'm not here to cause trouble for you. Xiao Tong curled up into a ball and looked at Su Che defensively. It was because that kick was deeply engraved in his heart. Su Che sat down beside Xiao Tong and expressed his purpose for coming to him. When the other party heard this, he knew that this man was interested in his sister. I can tell you about her past, but you have to help me pay off the 100,000 yuan gambling debt I owe. Xiao Tong demanded an exorbitant price. Just from Su Che's clothes, he knew that his identity was extraordinary. I can pay off your gambling debt, but you can't continue gambling, especially not your sister. Su Che agreed, but there were conditions. Xiao Tong thought for a moment and nodded. It's a deal. Tell me your account number. I'll transfer it to you later. But Xiao Tong, don't play tricks with me. I can monitor your movements at any time. Su Che warned in a serious tone. I really didn't expect that there would be someone in this world who would be willing to spend money for my sister. I admit that I'm a bastard, but compared to the bastard she met, I really can't compare. Xiao Tong sat on the ground with a sarcastic expression. You probably know that scumbag. He's now a professional player with an annual income of 10 million yuan. But who would have thought that he was so poor that he had to ask my sister for money to eat? My sister sponsored him for 3 years and helped him join an awesome team. But who knew that as soon as he had some achievements, He would get together with another woman and dump my sister. When Xiaoyi first broke up with her love, she liked to cry. Later she became moody. You haven't been to her house. There's no light at all. She never draws the curtains. She's also a pitiful person. She even has a brother like me who likes to gamble. There was a period of time when she took all kinds of medicine to treat her heart disease. The side effect of that thing was that it made her like this. For that scumbag, Xiaoyi even abandoned her grandmother who loved her the most. In the end, she lost both her life and her money. Don't you think that bastard is a beast? Since you know that your sister is already living a life worse than death, why do you still want to be the one who oppresses her? Su Che asked calmly. Don't you feel sorry for your own sister when she was hurt like this? Xiaoyi is like that. No one can cure her. Xiao Tong sighed. Do you think I haven't worked hard? I wasn't born into gambling. It was only after my business failed that I became like this. Alright, I've told you everything you want to know. If you want to chase after my sister, I advise you to stop worrying. Her current state is already as calm as water. Xiao Tong waved his hand, looking helpless. It's easy to treat an injured body, but an injured heart can't be treated unless she walks out of it herself. My sister used to be a very beautiful woman. What a pity. No wonder there was no light in her courtyard. It turned out that she had yet to walk out of her pain. Knowing the root of the problem, Su Che also felt that it was very troublesome. Although he understood why Xiaoyi was so strange, if he really wanted to cure Xiaoyi, he would probably need extreme patience and love. But the main problem was that scumbag. Today's game was equally boring. Just as Xiaoyi was sitting in the shop playing games in boredom, a person she hated to the bone appeared in the dessert shop. Emo and Nan. Xiaoyi. Sure enough, this scumbag had come to find trouble with her for his so-called girlfriend. Xiaoyi put down her phone and got up from her chair. In front of the shop assistant, she walked up to the man. You don't deserve to call my name. End of this chapter. Chapter 994. You still have the nerve to talk about me? It's been so many years. You should give up, right? I didn't expect you to be so stubborn. It's enough for you to pester me. Why do you have to hurt others? Emo and Nan stood at the door with his hands on his hips, questioning Xiaoyi angrily. In the past, I still felt a little guilty towards you, but you made Cindy lose her job. Now I only despise you. I only think you're disgusting. Tell me, what do you want to do for you to let me go? As long as I return the money I owe you, will you stop pestering me? As Emo and Nan spoke, he took out his wallet from his trouser pocket and took out a bank card. There's $1 million in here. It's enough to pay off the debt for the past few years. If you know what's good for you, take this money and leave Jianchuan. Don't ever appear in front of me again. Seeing that there were people coming and going in the shop assistant quickly closed the door and hung up the resting sign. Although they had long heard of the existence of such a scumbag, they had never known that he was so bad. Today, when they saw him in person, they immediately felt that the lady boss was really pitiful. Xiaoyi didn't say anything. She picked up the card that the scumbag had thrown on the table, broke it, and threw it at the scumbag's face. Get out of here. You think it's not enough? Emo and Nan laughed mockingly and took out another card. 2 million should be enough, right? What an insatiable *tch. Seeing such a scumbag, the dessert shop assistant was furious to the extreme. Looking at Xiaoyi again, her eyes were red and mocking, and her body was on the verge of collapse. She wanted nothing more than to tear this scumbag apart. However, at that moment, Su Che's figure appeared outside the dessert shop. Of course, he saw the words resting. But there were a lot of people watching outside the door, so he guessed that something must have happened. When the dessert shop assistant saw Su Che's figure, she quickly went to open the door, because they knew that this little brother had extraordinary skills. Little brother, help the store manager. That scumbag is really inhumane. Su Che raised his eyebrows and looked at Xiaoyi. He saw that her eyes were red, and her hands were clenched into fists. If he looked closely, he could see that her body was trembling slightly. From the looks of it, she had suffered great humiliation and grievance. Looking at the ground, it was a broken bank card. Su Che understood what was going on and walked in front of Xiao Yi. You're the one who wanted to see him. Why is it that when you see him, you're not as shameless as him? Who are you? Mo and Nan looked at Su Che as if he was scrutinizing him. There was a hint of mockery in the corner of his mouth. Xiao Yi, your taste is really getting more and more complicated. You don't even let go of such tender meat. Is it worth it for you to remember this kind of person for so many years? Su Che couldn't understand. How bad was your judgment in the past? Xiao Yi looked at Su Che and didn't too. You don't think it's worth it, do you? That's why you're like this. Go away. Xiao Yi to say. Xiao Yi to say. Her to she. To xiao to. She to she. You xiao. Xiao. And Nan to, you. Do to xiao to it to say. It you? You're only in your early 20s. How can you do that? I'm in charge of Xiao Yi, so don't appear in front of her in the future. As he spoke, Su Che took the bank card from the scumbag's hand and asked, how much is in it? 2 million. The scumbag answered in a very rich manner. Su Che threw it to Xiao Yi and said directly, someone is giving me money. Why wouldn't I want it? Besides, you deserve it. If you think this money is dirty, there's a way. The money in here is enough to hire 10 bodyguards and keep him in bed for half a year. After the shop assistant heard this, she felt that it made sense. Xiao is awesome. That's right, store manager. Wouldn't it be the best of both worlds if we used this money to beat him up? After Xiao heard this, she felt that it made sense. Why did she stupidly not accept it just now? Why would she talk about feelings and character with this scumbag? It's illegal to hire a hitman to beat someone up. It's fine. I'm familiar with the police station. As long as he's not dead, I'll guarantee your safety. Su Che was tired from talking, so he simply sat down on the chair. Brat, even if you want to brag, you should come up with a draft. With your appearance, come out and pick up. Before the word girl could leave his mouth, the scumbag's body had already flown to the wall and then landed heavily on the ground. Xiao Yi and the shop assistant were dumbfounded. With this skill, could he be an ancient martial arts master? Why did you force me to do it? The scumbag lay on the ground and moaned in pain. I want to call the police. Su Che walked forward and stepped on the back of the man's hand, ruthlessly ravaging it. Do you need me to call the police? After saying that, Su Che took out his phone for him and pressed the button to call the police. After he called the police, Su Che let go of his foot and looked at Xiao Yi. Take a good look. Think about why you should waste your life for such a person. Is it worth it? Xiao Yi was stunned. In the past few years, she had tried her best to see this scumbag, and she even had an obsession. But now that she had seen him as she wished and knew that he was such a beast, she felt that it was really not worth it. You hit him. Is it really okay? He called the police. Just let the police come. After saying that, Su Che stepped on the back of the scumbag's hand again. Xiao Yi was still worried. It was not worth it to tangle with the police for such a scumbag, but Su Che gestured for her to relax. A moment later, the police entered the dessert shop. When the scumbag saw that help had arrived, he hurriedly cried and stepped forward. Officer, it's him who hit me. I want to check my injuries. However, the few police officers who came in ignored him. They just walked up to Su Che and asked, Special Assistant Su, what happened? His hands and feet are dirty, and his mouth is even dirtier, so I taught him a lesson. Su Che let go of his foot and said, Don't you think so? Su Che tilted his head and asked the shop assistants. The few of them immediately nodded. Yes, officer. This scumbag is stealing from the shop. Officer, he hit someone for no reason. Mo and Nan quickly shouted. If you don't believe me, ask the neighbors outside. Do you know who he is? The police asked Mo and Nan. Zhongting's CEO's personal bodyguard, special assistant, and Jianchuan's operations consultant. I've only seen Special Assistant Su catch criminals. Mo and Nan was stunned. He was stunned when he heard the word Zhongting. Since you said that Special Assistant Su hit you, fine. We'll take you to check your injuries now. You should go back and prepare a lawyer or something. Just sue him. Mo and Nan was stunned. Who didn't know that Jianchuan was now Zhongting's world? If he sued Su Che, he wouldn't be able to continue staying in Jianchuan. I'm sorry, officer. It was my own hand that was cheap. It had nothing to do with Special Assistant Su. I fell on my own. Uft. The shop assistant couldn't help but laugh. This scumbag's attitude had changed too much. Chapter 995. Next time, you have to wear your eyes when you go out. Polish your eyes. Do you understand? Emo and Nan glanced at Xiao Yi and nodded at the police with a trembling voice. I'll definitely pay attention next time. Then will you come looking for trouble next time? Su Che raised his chin and asked the scumbag. Emo and Nan quickly waved his hand. Since I know that Xiao Yi has such a powerful backer, how could I have the guts? Since you know, when you see Xiao Yi in the future, take a detour. Otherwise, not to mention your little girlfriend, even you will have to disappear from the esports circle. At this moment, Su Che was like a knight who had descended from the sky, teaching this scumbag a lesson. I got it. I'll remember it. Then I'll leave first. After saying that, Emo and Nan wanted to leave, but he was stopped by Su Che. Don't you have one more important thing to do? Su Che pointed at Xiao Yi with his chin and asked the scumbag. Emo and Nan glanced at Xiao Yi and took 2 steps forward. He apologized to Xiao Yi while trembling with fear. I'm the one who's cheap. Please forgive me. At this moment, Xiao Yi finally saw clearly what kind of man she had wasted her time on for so many years. She suddenly felt a little bored. Therefore, thousands of words could only be condensed into one word. Scram. Emo and Nan scrammed, and he completely scrammed. Su Che looked at the police officers in the area and quickly thanked them. In the future, I hope you guys can help me take care of the dessert shop. Of course. Special Assistant Su, your friend is our friend. After saying that, the police officers left one after another. At this moment, the dessert shop finally quietened down. Lady Boss, little brother is so handsome. You should express something, right? The waiter in the shop gave Xiao Yi a push. This is the perfect hero saving the damsel in distress. It's so romantic. Xiao Yi looked at Su Che and suddenly felt a little embarrassed. She ran out of the shop awkwardly. Little brother, hurry up and chase after her. Su Che got up and followed Xiao Yi out. The two of them walked along the river to the bridge. Xiao Yi suddenly turned around and looked at Su Che. You're very strange. Why did you suddenly help me? Are you pitying me? Maybe it's just that it can't bear to see you waste your life at such a young age. Su Che leaned against the railing and answered Xiao Yi softly. I thought you were very strange before. After understanding the truth of the matter, I felt that you were very pitiful. I don't understand why you would spend your time on those unworthy people. I am very stupid, right? Xiao Yi covered her face and squatted down. But I can't control myself. I'm not a normal person, you know? I have to take medicine to maintain a life that others think is ordinary. That's because you've experienced too little. Tomorrow afternoon, I'll take you to a place so that you can experience what true life is. Xiao Yi still felt that it was very strange because she was not related to Su Che. Could it be that her existence was just to satisfy Su Che's curiosity? However, she really wanted to know what the true life that Su Che spoke of was. Therefore, she couldn't reject Su Che because she couldn't find a reason to. When she returned to the shop, Xiao Yi was in a daze. She didn't remember what she had said to Su Che, but in fact, she had already foolishly given all her contact information to Su Che, including her game account. Lady Boss, what did you say to little big brother? He helped you so much. No matter what, you should at least give him a hug or a kiss, right? Xiao Yi's attention was pulled back by the waiter beside her. She glared at him and said, Do you think he would like someone like me? But I don't think Special Assistant Su is such a shallow person. Look, he's the bodyguard and special assistant of the CEO of Zhongting. And he's also the operational consultant of the Jianchuan police. With such high-quality resources, he's like heaven and earth compared to that scumbag, okay? Please don't waste God's gifts recklessly. Handsome people are all working hard to live. What reason do you have to give up on yourself? After listening to the shop assistant's description, Xiao Yi's mind became much clearer. It wasn't that she hadn't tried to start over, but every time she thought of that scumbag, she would be dragged into hell again. Lady boss, you have to work hard. Xiao Yi felt upset, so she took her phone and sat by the window. Every time she had something on her mind, she would take out the game and play for a while. This had nothing to do with that scumbag. After all, the game was innocent. However, just as she logged into the game, she was added by an unfamiliar number. She took a closer look and saw that the person's ID was, "I'll let you in." Wasn't this obvious? It was undoubtedly Su Che. Xiao Yi accepted his addition, and in the next second, she was pulled into the ranking board by him. This person had just been talking to her about the principles of life. How many hours had it been? It was a waste of time to drag her along. This time, his hero pool was no longer just little Litten. Xiao Yi chose an archer, Yu Ji, while Su Che was still the cool Han Xian. Standing in the crowd, he looked really awe-inspiring. Su Che didn't say anything. He focused on playing the game with Xiao Yi, but Xiao Yi was too stupid. She was always targeted by the opponent's assassin, Sun Wukong. Therefore, Su Che didn't do anything else in this round. He could lose the game, but Sun Wukong had to die. Therefore, Han Xian stayed in different places in the canyon, waiting for Monkey to send a message. Han Xian, can you let me go? I'm still a child. Han Xian, because you did something wrong. The enemy monkey was traumatized. I only caught a bunch of archers. Han Xian, this is the reason why you're being hunted. Monkey, why didn't you say so earlier? Why are you showing off your love while playing a game? I'm hanging up. Han Xian didn't say anything else. After a wave of 5 kills, he led his teammates to win the canyon. Xiao Yi looked at Su Che and Han Xian's profile picture. For some reason, this seemed to be the first time in her life that someone had protected her. So after putting down her phone, she started crying. When the people in the shop saw this, they couldn't help but mutter, "What's wrong with the shop manager?" After playing around, Su Che came out to look at her. It was up to him whether he won or not. Su Che thought for a moment and sent a message to Xiao Yi. "Remember that we have an appointment tomorrow." Xiao Yi really wanted to reply that she didn't want to go, but when she recalled Su Che's serious expression, she couldn't bear to refuse. "I remember. Why did you go down just now? You don't like me playing games with you? I just want you to relax a little." How could Xiao Yi say that it was so embarrassing that she cried because she was moved? "My phone is out of battery." Su Che didn't reply for a long time. When he was about to sleep, he asked Xiao Yi, "Do you want to try living seriously?" Living seriously? Xiao Yi almost didn't know how to write seriously. But for some reason, when it came from Su Che's mouth, it was very attractive. Chapter 996. This was the first time Su Che had asked Sheng Xiao to get off work early for a girl. Sheng Xiao, who had been a father for a long time, realized that he cared too little about his subordinates. Therefore, he nodded without hesitation, and even asked Su Che if an hour was not enough. Su Che only needed an hour, and he had made an agreement with Mu Qiqi. He applied to bring someone into the forensics laboratory to observe, and it was a girl. After Mu Qiqi heard this, her hand holding the scalpel could not help but tremble. Su Che had been alone for so many years. He suddenly had an idea, and wanted to bring a girl on a date. He was actually going to the forensics laboratory of the Jianchuan branch to watch her dissect a dead person? Was this person's brain okay? "Su Che, why don't you go somewhere else? There are many fun places under Zhongting and Huangyao. Do you want to reconsider?" "No need, young madam. Special people need special treatment." Su Che did not appreciate this at all. Whether it was the Crystal Music Hall or the 5D cinema, as long as it was a place that girls yearned for, it was nothing to Xiao Yi. She needed excitement now. She needed to be reactivated. "All right then, I'll apply to Chief Tang. However, don't regret it. I won't be responsible if you scare someone." Mu Qiqi put the ugly words first. "Don't worry, young madam." After hanging up, Mu Qiqi quickly called Sheng Xiao to confirm if Su Che had gone crazy. "I don't know who the other party is, but from the looks of it, Su Che seems to be serious. I've never seen someone flirt like this. He brought someone to watch the autopsy?" Mu Qiqi did not know whether to laugh or cry. "This is Su Che's matter. Let him handle it himself. I'll come and pick you up tonight. Sheng Xiao changed the topic to Mu Qiqi. Little Qi went to the Shen family today. When Mu Qiqi heard this, she immediately knew what he meant. On such days, the couple would definitely have a romantic day outside. It could be Zhongting's office, or it could be some beautiful hotel. Got it. I'll get off work after Su Che comes to observe. When Sheng Xiao received the message that Mu Qiqi was not going to work overtime, he nodded in satisfaction. Good girl. Be good, be good. Mu Qiqi rolled her eyes. She was already 25 or 26 years old, yet she was being coaxed by this man like a 17-year-old girl. However, when she thought about how she would be able to see the woman Su Che liked later, Mu Qiqi's heart was filled with anticipation. At 6 o'clock in the evening, Su Che drove to the dessert shop. This was the first time Xiao Yi and her shop assistant saw Su Che's car. It was actually an extremely cool Maybach. Lady boss, little brother is here. The shop assistant winked at Xiao Yi, signaling her to look out the window. Xiao Yi looked up and saw that Su Che was so high profile. She immediately felt a little embarrassed, so she picked up the leather bag in the cabinet and went out. Stop gossiping. Su Che didn't mean to cause such a commotion. It was just that the motorcycle was being repaired, and he had no other choice. When Xiao Yi got into the car, she deliberately glared at him. Su Che knew why. When the two of them were halfway there, Su Che explained, I'm in a hurry today, so my other car is being repaired. I didn't mean to make you feel uncomfortable. I thought you came here to flaunt your wealth. It turned out that Xiao Yi could also joke around. Su Che ignored her sarcasm and drove the Maybach all the way to the entrance of the Jinchuan branch office. Seeing that they were at the entrance of the police station, Xiao Yi was a little puzzled. Could it be that this is the place where you want me to learn about life again? You'll know when you go in. Su Che tilted his head and answered. Xiao Yi didn't understand. After Su Che parked the car, she followed behind him. As for the people at the police station, they were already used to Su Che's appearance. They only nodded in greeting. Occasionally, a few people expressed interest in the little woman behind him, but they didn't associate it with the relationship. After all, not many people were willing to bring their girlfriends to a place like the police station, right? Yet Su Che was such a weirdo. Xiao Yi followed closely behind Su Che, but soon, she felt uncomfortable. Why was it getting colder as she walked? Soon Su Che pushed open the door of the forensic laboratory. At that moment, Mu Qiqi was sitting in front of the dissection table in a white coat. Seeing the two of them appear, Mu Qiqi blinked at Su Che. Aren't you going to introduce yourself first? I know you. Xiao Yi immediately answered before Su Che could. You're too famous, forensic Dr. Mu. I'm Xiao Yi, Su Che's friend, a pastry chef. Seeing that the other party had reached out, Mu Qiqi smiled and raised her white gloves. It smells good. I'll shake it next time. Xiao Yi smiled and didn't mind. Seeing that the other party didn't care about trifles, Mu Qiqi walked around the corpse's head and continued to say to Xiao Yi, this is the first time Su Che brought a girl out. I thought he would choose to go to some romantic place, but he called me in the afternoon and actually wanted to bring you to see the corpse. He told me that he wanted me to get to know life again. Xiao Yi explained with a smile. Xiao Yi explained with a smile. Her round face looked really cute, even though she was older than Mu Qiqi. I see. Mu Qiqi understood Su Che's intentions. In that case, come and take a look. If you want to be Su Che's girlfriend, of course, you have to know what kind of things and people he has come into contact with. Oui. Mu Qiqi didn't wait for her to explain, and directly removed the white cloth that had covered the body of the corpse. After Xiao Yi saw it, she was so scared that her face turned pale. However, when she saw the corpse in front of her, half of its head had collapsed. It was as terrifying as it could be. Su Che quickly supported Xiao Yi. Then, the two of them heard Mu Qiqi's explanation. This old man was killed by a stone at a construction site. When he died, he was 74 years old. He had a 98-year-old mother and a paralyzed wife to support. He had no children. After being hit, he didn't die on the spot. His strong will to live allowed him to hold on for 6 hours. In the end, he didn't make it through because his injuries were too serious. If this is what Suche wants you to see, then I can tell you a lot of such stories. After hearing Muchichi's description, Xiaoyi was naturally shocked. She had only lost a relationship, but she was already dying. It was no wonder that Suche would bring her to this cold dissection room. People who appear on the dissection table are never willing to die just like that, especially this old man. He was deliberately stoned to death. They are the people who cherish life the most in this world, but God didn't give them this chance. Xiaoyi, although I don't understand why Suche brought you here, it's too easy to die. It's difficult to live with dignity. Chapter 997. After coming out of the forensics laboratory, Xiaoyi fell into deep thought. After all, both Muchichi and Suche had indeed taught her a lesson that she would never forget. On the way home, Xiaoyi peeked at Suche a few times. When she reached the finish line, she finally couldn't help but thank Suche. Thank you for today. It's really a rare experience in life. Although it's a little strange to bring a girl to see a corpse. Don't just let the body live. That's a walking corpse. You have to let the soul be ignited as well. That's true living. Suche tilted his head to look at Xiaoyi, his eyes full of seriousness. At this moment, Xiaoyi responded to Suche's gaze. She finally felt something different about Suche. Muchichi also had this kind of thing. It was a kind of reverence and cherishing for life. You look down on me, don't you? Xiaoyi was a little self-deprecating. Every day, I hide in my shell and feel sorry for myself. I'm not willing to give my heart to others. In your heart, I must be a very bad person. No. Suche shook his head. At first, I was curious about how badly you could live your life. Now I'm curious about how well you can live your life. You're really confident in me. Xiaoyi couldn't help but laugh. I've always had a good eye for people. After hearing Suche's words, Xiaoyi suddenly had an idea. Don't send me home. I want to go to another place first. Suche raised his eyebrows slightly. But we're already at your door. Let's go back to the dessert shop first. Let's go. Suche saw her hand on his shoulder and couldn't help but laugh. Perhaps it was because she was chubby and cute, or perhaps it was because Xiaoyi was finally willing to open her heart to others. Therefore, he was willing to turn around for Xiaoyi. The two of them returned to the dessert shop late at night. By this time, the shop assistant was already preparing to close. However, when they saw the lady boss and Suche return together, they winked at each other. It seemed that their date today had been very enjoyable. Xiaoyi brought Suche to the dessert-making room and put on the pastry chef's hat. Suche stood beside her and watched as she took out all kinds of ingredients. You're going to make pastries? I've been researching a new product for the past few days, but I still don't know what to use for it. It was your words just now that woke me up. Have a seat, I might need 2 hours. Are you busy? Suche looked at the chair beside him and sat down. There's no hurry. That's good. I'll let you be the first to taste it later. After saying that, Xiaoyi lowered her head. This was completely different from how she usually played games. It was as if only when she was making her beloved pastries would she be completely immersed and reveal her serious side. Suche, it's your honor. I've never let anyone see how I make pastries. Suche smiled faintly. When he saw the flour on her forehead, he couldn't help but reach out to wipe it off for her. The two of them were stunned at the same time. Suche's expression didn't change, but Xiaoyi became a little unnatural. So, she stopped what she was doing and asked Suche with one hand on her waist. Why are you so good to me? Suche shrugged. Of course it's to pursue you. What other reason could there be? Are you kidding me? Xiaoyi pointed at her body with an incredulous expression. Do you know how heavy I am? I don't mind. You're just right, Suche said in a relaxed manner. In your heart, am I such a shallow person? Of course, Xiaoyi didn't mean that. She just felt that she wasn't used to God suddenly being so good to her. Moreover, how could she be worthy of Suche? Don't you think you're a flower? Suche sat on the chair with his arms crossed, a slight smile on his face. So was she comparing herself to cow dung? Try living seriously. Everything will become very different. When that time comes, you'll probably still despise a boorish person like me who only knows how to use force. You're not a boorish person, Xiaoyi retorted. How could there be such a boorish person with such a good character? It's just that, as you know, I've carried a lot of things in the past. I need time to recover now, so I might not be able to accept your feelings for a relationship in the short term. It's fine, Su Che said frankly. As long as you allow me to appear in your sight for 2 to 3 days, it'll be fine. Xiaoyi naturally couldn't refuse this. Moreover, Su Che was already an adult. She couldn't control him. Then, I'll continue making pastries. Su Che nodded and gestured for her to continue. On the other hand, Xiaoyi suddenly felt embarrassed because Su Che's frankness made her feel especially awkward. But in the end, Su Che couldn't accompany Xiaoyi to the end because he received a call from Tang Yan. I thought that after you get off work, all your time is yours. Xiaoyi walked Su Che out the door. Sometimes, the branch office has important missions and will let me participate in the operations, Su Che replied. Is it okay for you to go home by yourself? What kind of mission? It's very dangerous. Su Che could only answer this way. After all, it was impossible for him to tell Xiaoyi the details of the mission. Oh, then go quickly. I'll pack up and go home. Xiaoyi took out her car keys. I'll wait for you to have time to make this new product. Su Che nodded slightly. After walking out of the dessert shop, he immediately got into his flashy luxury car. Xiaoyi watched Su Che leave. Suddenly, she felt deep respect for Su Che. Was this person a city hero? He would go wherever he was needed. Thinking of herself, Xiaoyi decisively locked the door of her dessert shop. When she entered her own house, she reached out and turned on the lights. In all these years, this was the first time she had turned on the lights at night. Not only that, but she also mustered up the courage to open the curtains of her house. Life really shouldn't be so delicate. After all, there were people who had to go out late at night to fight for the peace of this city. And why did she have to make herself feel so bad? That night Xiaoyi thought about a lot. She also spent the whole night sorting out all the dark things in her house and throwing them into the trash can outside the courtyard. She was determined to throw away her past self. The next morning, Xiaoyi packed her simple luggage and left the house because she had decided to move to a more sunny residence. However, because she hadn't found a suitable place yet, she left her luggage in the dessert shop. When the shop assistant saw this, she couldn't help but guess. Lady boss, you're moving too fast. Are you going to stay at Special Assistant Su's house? What nonsense are you talking about? I just want to change houses. I haven't found a suitable place for the time being. Then go to my place. Su Che, who suddenly pushed open the door and entered, said to Xiaoyi with a tired expression, I can vacate the 3rd floor for you to do dessert research. Xiaoyi was instantly flustered. Wasn't this person coming too fast? Chapter 998. You haven't been home since last night? I wasn't allowed to drive over last night, so I parked my car near your house. This morning, I found out that your house was for sale, Su Che explained simply. I thought you'd slipped away. Xiaoyi blushed and quickly said, I just wanted a change of environment. I just heard it. That's why I asked you to come to my house. The shop assistant looked at the two of them ambiguously, and then silently retreated to the side, leaving the space for the two of them. If you do this, others will think that we're together. You don't have to be so nervous. I'm going to collect rent. Su Che put one hand in his pants pocket and smiled at Xiaoyi. I'll give you the key. I'll send the address to your phone later. You can go take a look when you have time. Okay. Thinking about it carefully, Xiaoyi didn't seem to have any reason to refuse. Then I'll see you tonight. Seeing that Xiaoyi didn't refuse, Su Che put down the key and pushed the door open to leave. Xiaoyi looked at the key and soon received the address that Su Che had sent her. However, looking at the line of words that appeared on the phone screen, she felt that things shouldn't be developing in that direction. She hadn't gotten over the pain of the previous man, and now she was going to get involved with another man? Xiaoyi felt that this was unfair to Su Che, and it was also irresponsible to herself. Now she had a bunch of shortcomings. She didn't want to appear in Su Che's life in such a way, so Xiaoyi suddenly made a decision. Today was Christmas Eve, And it was also Muchichi's birthday. Su-che got off work early, but when he went home, he didn't see Xiao-yi as he had hoped. Then he went to the dessert shop. When the shop assistant saw him, she quickly took out the key and a letter that Xiao-yi had left for him. I'm sorry, Su-che. I don't think I can agree to your invitation, because stability isn't what I need right now. I want to go out and take a look. I want to know what kind of beautiful things I've wasted all these years. I also want to become a better version of myself, so I'm leaving. I don't know which country I'm going to, and I don't know how long I'll be gone. But I'll remember what you said. I'll think of a way to make myself live a real life. After reading it, Su-che put away the letter and looked at the key in his hand with a slightly helpless expression. Assistant, this is a gift from the store manager. She wishes you a happy Christmas Eve. The shop assistant handed the Santa Claus cake that Xiao-yi had prepared before she left to Su-che. In fact, this outcome was within Su-che's expectations. Because of Xiao-yi, she was a girl with independent thoughts. It was just that in the past, she had lost her way in the midst of hurt. Since this was her choice, then let him see what kind of transformation she would undergo. For the next 6 months, Su-che never saw Xiao-yi again. He didn't even have any news about her. He still went to her dessert shop often, although the taste of the pastries had been greatly reduced after Xiao-yi left. He would still log into the game occasionally to see if Xiao-yi would be bored. However, Xiao-yi had disappeared very completely, so the profile picture box in her friends list had always been dark. Ever since she left, it had never lit up again. From then on, Su-che's life returned to normal. Muchichi and Sheng Xiao found it strange. Could it be that he really wanted to encourage the girl out of kindness? Su-che, another half a year has passed. Shouldn't you bring the next girl to see me dissect? Muchichi had once asked Su-che indirectly. Did he really want to be a bachelor for the rest of his life? I don't have anyone I like for the time being. Su-che wasn't waiting for Xiao-yi on purpose. He just felt that there was still a faint connection between him and Xiao-yi. Uncle Su, Tang Xiaobao already has a girlfriend. Why don't you have one yet? Little Chi sat on the sofa, nibbling on her bread as she asked Su-che. The Tang Xiaobao she mentioned was the treasure of Tang Yan's family. That's because Xiaobao is amazing. Is it because Daddy doesn't want to send Uncle a girlfriend? Little Chi looked innocent. After Muchichi heard this, her forehead was filled with black lines. She suddenly felt that her daughter had indeed inherited more from her. It's because Uncle hasn't met the real fated person yet. How's my mommy? Uncle Su, let my mommy be your girlfriend. That way, no one will snatch Daddy from me. Muchichi. Su-che. Little Chi, I think this is a good suggestion. Why don't you tell Daddy when he comes back? Muchichi deliberately set a trap. She wanted Master Xiao to throw her daughter into the cold palace. Okay. Little Chi didn't realize at all that this was her mother's love. She was only happy that she could dominate her father. Su-che didn't know whether to laugh or cry, so he found an excuse to leave the banyan courtyard. For someone like the young madam, only Sheng Xiao could know what was going on in her heart. As for him, he should just continue to be single. Returning to this land after half a year, Xiaoyi felt as if it was a lifetime ago. When she appeared at the entrance of the dessert shop again, her shop assistant didn't recognize her at a glance. She thought she was a customer. I'm sorry, but the shop is already closed. So when I'm not around, you guys are all so lazy, Xiaoyi replied as she crossed her arms and looked at them. Then, she felt the stunned gazes of the few people. Oh my God, store manager. Is that you? Store manager, you've lost weight, and you know how to dress up. The Xiaoyi in front of her was no longer that chubby little girl. She had lost a lot of weight. Moreover, because she had become beautiful after losing weight, she was much more confident. Store manager, quickly tell me, what happened to you in the past 6 months? At this moment, Xiaoyi was wearing a white spaghetti strap dress. She looked fashionable and intellectual. She had indeed changed her appearance. She was no longer the Xiaoyi who would be afraid of the dark for a man. If you want to hear a story, you have to wait for me to sit down first, right? Xiaoyi rolled her eyes. Actually, she had already expected that when she returned to the shop, it would definitely cause a stir. In the past 6 months, She had traveled to 23 countries and constantly volunteered. It was also because of this busy schedule that she had unknowingly lost so much weight. It was never intentional. Then store manager, are you still leaving now that you're back? Xiaoyi shook her head. I'm tired from walking. I want to rest. Then, have you contacted Special Assistant Sue in the past 6 months? The shop assistant asked again. This time, Xiaoyi didn't answer because she didn't know how to answer. What right did she have to make people wait for her? Chapter 999. The shop assistant looked at her expression and knew that she was wasting natural resources. She said helplessly, although you are heartless, Special Assistant Sue still comes over every few days, even if our cake is expensive and unpalatable. Speaking of which, he came here today. Xiaoyi fiddled with her long curly hair, her expression a little complicated. Do as you see fit. Xiaoyi scratched her bangs. For a moment, she really didn't know what to do with Su Che. She still had Su Che's contact information in her phone. Looking at her suitcase, she took out her phone and dialed Su Che's number. Hello, who is this? On the other end of the phone, Su Che didn't have Xiaoyi's new phone number. This is Xiaoyi. Do you want to come out for a drink? I'm going back to the shop. Xiaoyi asked directly over the phone. I'll be there in half an hour. Su Che replied in a deep voice after a few seconds of pause. After a short exchange, Xiaoyi hung up the phone. However, after putting down the phone, she saw her employees giving her a thumbs up. Store manager, you've changed. You've become more confident, and you're willing to try and communicate. Just because I called Su Che. Xiaoyi smiled faintly. That was because this group of people had never seen her when she was abroad. She was now used to kissing foreigners on the cheek, and she was also used to wearing fashionable and sexy clothes. When she met handsome men, she would strike up a conversation. When she walked on the bustling streets, she would also look forward to romantic encounters. Of course, she only thought about it in her heart, and had never put it into action. You guys can get off work first. Take out all the wine, Xiaoyi said to the employees. I wish you and Special Assistant Sue a pleasant evening. The employees winked at her ambiguously. Xiaoyi recalled Su Che's appearance. In fact, she could only remember a rough outline, but she still remembered his figure clearly. A pleasant evening? She made it sound as if something was going to happen. Xiaoyi laughed. After the employees left, she walked to the kitchen counter and began to mix drinks. This was a new interest she had recently fallen in love with. Half an hour later, Su Che arrived at Xiaoyi's shop. The moment he pushed open the door, he could no longer see the chubby Xiaoyi from before. The woman standing in front of the kitchen counter was sexy and charming. She seemed to have been deeply influenced by foreign countries. From her dressing to her appearance, she was more like a European and American woman. Xiaoyi felt the burning gaze, so she raised her head and placed a cup of Long Island iced tea in front of Su Che. Sit and try how it tastes. Have you changed from making pastries to mixing drinks? Xiaoyi couldn't deny it. She poured herself a glass of brandy and walked out of the kitchen counter to take a seat opposite Su Che. Su Che picked up the wine glass and took a sip before putting it down. You've changed a lot in the past 6 months. Yes, it's quite big. Xiaoyi nodded and smiled. I've tried many things and seen many things that I've never experienced before. You, on the other hand, haven't changed much. 2 days ago, young madam asked me when I would bring a girl to see her dissection again. Am I interested? Since they had met again, Su Che did not intend to beat around the bush. Xiaoyi. Now. Xiao Che. Xiao of Xiao since. Xiaoyi. Xiaoyi said. Su, Xiao. Do you know what this means? Xiaoyi put down her glass and propped up her arm to look at Su Che. Then, she teasingly hooked Su Che's chin and said, I want to fall in love too. Then shall we go to my house tonight? Su Che looked at her luggage in the corner and asked. Sure. Unexpectedly this time, Xiaoyi nodded and said yes. She seemed to have completely changed. She had become proactive and confident. She seemed to have learned to enjoy life and everything in front of her. Her shop assistant was right. Su Che was indeed a rare man. Since she had already started over, Why couldn't she muster up her courage and take the initiative to win this man back? After leaving for half a year, she wasn't sure if Suche would wait for her. However, when she returned to the shop and heard the news about Suche from the staff, she knew that Suche was still willing to be with her and that he didn't have a new lover. After the two of them had a drink in the shop, Suche brought Xiaoyi back to his villa. Xiaoyi had rejected the key back then. Now she felt that it was a pity. Can an assistant be so rich? I'll also make some investments. Suche placed her luggage beside the sofa in the living room and asked her, "Do you want to sleep on the second or third floor? What's the difference?" Xiaoyi turned around and asked, "The second floor is my bedroom, and the third floor is the guest room." Suche leaned back on the sofa and answered honestly. After Xiaoyi heard this, she didn't answer immediately. Instead, she asked Suche, "Can I use the pool?" Of course. After Xiaoyi heard this, she immediately took off her high heels and jumped into the pool. Then Suche saw a mermaid swimming in the pool. A moment later, Xiaoyi stood by the pool. Facing the sparkling water, she hooked her finger at Suche. Suche didn't even take off his shirt. He jumped into the water and swam to Xiaoyi's side. "You've become bad." Xiaoyi took the opportunity to hook her arm around Suche's waist, her heart pounding. "I want to sleep in your room. I want to enjoy it. It's a relationship between adults." Suche hugged her waist and pulled her out of the water. "Have you been so bold to others abroad?" "Of course not, because there's no Suche abroad, and not everyone can be Suche." After hearing this, Suche didn't hesitate and directly brought her to the bedroom. "Don't regret it." Xiaoyi hooked her arms around Suche's neck and smiled charmingly. Of course she wouldn't hesitate. After going out for half a year, she had been deeply influenced by the thoughts of foreign women and had become confident and independent. As a woman, why couldn't she enjoy the love of a man? Especially when she was traversing the canyons of South Africa alone, skiing in Queenstown, and crossing the Alps. She wanted to have a partner by her side and a relationship that wouldn't break up. Soon, the two of them lay on the bed wet. It wasn't until Suche pressed on top of her that Xiaoyi felt real. "Be gentle. I'm afraid of pain." "If you know you're afraid, why are you seducing me?" Suche pressed on top of her and asked in amusement. Can't I be like the women abroad and enjoy love freely? I'm no longer the conservative me I used to be." After saying that, Xiaoyi took the initiative to slide down her shoulder strap, and even winked at Suche. Damn it! With Xiaoyi's action, Suche realized that he had a reaction. It was a strong desire to possess her. Chapter 1000. Suche's hand naturally caressed the woman's delicate skin. His hot and wet kiss also became intense and crazy with his desire. The two of them quickly took off their drenched clothes. However, unlike the shyness of other women, Xiaoyi boldly admired the man's strong body. There was a hint of provocation in her eyes. This naturally aroused the man's desire to conquer her. Therefore, Suche did not hesitate. He also boldly took possession of this woman and completely made her his. The bedroom was filled with an ambiguous atmosphere. The two of them had a hearty time, and then turned to the bathroom. This was destined to be a sleepless night. Xiaoyi was extremely exhausted and felt pain all over her body. However, what Suche gave her was an extremely extreme experience. Perhaps, this was the strength of martial artists. The next morning, Suche woke up and subconsciously reached out to hug Xiaoyi. However, he was met with serious resistance from the woman. "Don't. I feel bad. I just want to hug you and take a hot bath," Suche quickly explained. "Have a good rest at home today. I think you can't get out of bed." Only then did Xiaoyi know what it meant to blush. "No, I'm going to the shop. I'm going to upgrade the dessert shop. I'm no longer selling childish cakes for children." Xiaoyi hooked her arms around Suche's neck and said, "After the bath, you don't have to worry about me. Go to work. I have my own things to do." Suche almost forgot that she was now independent and a woman of the new era. After sleeping with someone, you're going back on your word? When did I? Xiaoyi blinked. Isn't it good to let us maintain our independence? I only feel you're cunning. After saying that, Su Che leaned in again. You don't need to move. I'll move. What a joke. He had been single for 32 years. Now that he had finally tasted flesh, how could Su Che let it go so easily? This time, it was already 9 o'clock in the morning. According to the time, Su Che should have reported to Zhongting long ago. However, because of Xiao Yi, for the first time in his life, he knew what it meant to be late. Xiao Yi was completely taken advantage of, so she didn't care anymore. She directly clamped her legs around Su Che's waist. Don't even think about going to work today. Is that so? Su Che asked hoarsely. He really didn't plan on going to work today. Then don't even think about getting out of bed for the next 3 days. Did it have to be so intense? Xiao Yi didn't have time to think. In short, according to the people at the dessert shop, they really didn't see Xiao Yi again in the next 3 days. It was rare for Su Che to take a 3-day vacation. For the past 3 days, the two of them had been staying in Su Che's house. Xiao Yi was wearing Su Che's shirt, her long legs bare as she busied herself in the kitchen. What she didn't realize was that this place could turn into a battlefield at any time. In the past 3 days, where else had they not been intimate? 3 days later, Xiao Yi finally walked out of the door. She drove Su Che's flashy car to the dessert shop in a high-profile manner. The employees in the shop were extremely curious, so they took the opportunity to ask Xiao Yi, "Store manager, where have you been for the past 3 days? Besides, why did he drive Special Assistant Su's car here?" "I'm going to deal with the important matters of my life." Xiao Yi hummed a song as she waved at them. From the looks of it, she was in a good mood. After the employees came over, she said, "I'm going to upgrade the shop soon. Also, I've bought the few shops next to it. When the time comes, the area will expand by more than 5 times. All of you are old employees of the shop. If you want to stay, of course I welcome you. If you feel that the 3-month renovation period is too long, and you can't wait, I can arrange other jobs for you." After they heard this, they couldn't help but look at each other. After going out for half a year, the store manager was indeed different when she came back. In the past, when she sold desserts, her business was so good that she had never thought of expanding the shop. After going out for half a year and coming back, she had indeed thought things through, and knew that making money was very important. Therefore, the few of them immediately showed their loyalty. "We're willing to stay and wait for the shop to be upgraded." "Oh, this is too unfair to you. How about this? You can take a vacation with a basic salary. When you're free, you can also participate in the shop's promotional activities. How about that?" The employees immediately applauded her. There weren't many bosses like her nowadays. "I'll keep the dessert part. On this basis, the renovation will be upgraded, and there will be a high-end bar and a pet water bar next to it." "But store manager, this will cost a lot of money, right? I've already sold the apartment and car at a discount. It's completely enough. You don't have to worry." Xiao Yi quickly comforted them. "Store manager, you're so cool now. You're so cool." Xiao Yi, who had returned from abroad, was not only confident but also courageous. This was a completely different person from the Xiao Yi of the past. However, just as the few of them were praising Xiao Yi's progress, her useless brother came looking for her. The employees quickly signaled to Xiao Yi that the troublemaker had come looking for trouble. In the past, Xiao Yi had suffered a lot for this scumbag brother. Xiao Yi understood their hints. She crossed her arms and turned around. Her expression was no longer as cowardly as before. "You don't have money to spend again?" Xiao Tong looked at his sister who had turned around. He was so surprised that his eyeballs almost fell out. You're really Xiao Yi? You don't know me anymore." Xiao Yi pulled out a chair with a mocking expression. "I've only been back for a few days, and you're already looking for me? Xiao Yi, I'm your brother after all. For the sake of our blood relationship, help me one more time." Xiao Yi glanced at him, then took out her phone, and called the police in front of Xiao Tong. "Hello, are you the police? I'm the owner of the dessert shop Xiao Yi. Someone here is causing trouble." Xiao Tong didn't expect Xiao Yi to become so domineering. He quickly said, "You can't go that far, right? I'm just looking for my sister to reminisce about the past. But I don't want to reminisce about the past with you. I've been squeezed a lot by you in the past. You should be satisfied." I won't allow you to gamble without a bottom line. When the employees saw this, they secretly gave Xiaoyi a thumbs up. How cool, store manager. Aren't you leaving yet? Don't blame me for not warning you. Su Che has already informed the police here. Xiao Tong had no choice but to retreat from the dessert shop. But in fact, Xiaoyi didn't even make the call. Store manager, I heard you mention special assistant Su. Yes, I moved out my boyfriend. What's the problem? Xiaoyi asked the little cutie in the shop. Let's close early today. We have to start preparing for the renovation tomorrow. You guys can take the pastries back tonight, and leave one for me. Boyfriend. So for those 3 days, the store manager had been with special assistant Su? He couldn't be more handsome. Chapter 1001. Late that night, Su Che rode his motorcycle to the dessert shop to pick Xiaoyi up from work. The employees in the shop saw Su Che wearing a jacket and gloves. He looked so cool. Store manager, you're so happy. Xiaoyi looked up and saw Su Che pushing the door open. Her heart warmed, and her face was filled with satisfaction. Then, she handed the last piece of cake to Su Che. Didn't you say that your nephew lives nearby? This is a gift from Auntie. You're willing to go? Su Che was stunned for a few seconds as he looked at the exquisite cake box and asked. In fact, he was a little surprised. Because the two of them had just confirmed their relationship. Very few girls were willing to have contact with the man's family in such a short period of time. Why not? I'm also looking forward to seeing little Liden. Xiaoyi supported herself on the cashier counter and smiled. Do you need to report in advance? I'll just make a call. Su Che took out his phone and answered. Oh my, you're going to meet the parents. The employees in the shop jeered. How lucky. Xiaoyi glared at them and threw the key to the employees. You guys close the shop. Then, she took the cake box and walked to Su Che's side. As Su Che made the call, he reached out and put his arm around Xiaoyi's waist. Leave the car here. Just walk. Your family must be very surprised. Xiaoyi could imagine the expressions of Su Che's family when they heard the news. They'll like you, especially little Liden. Su Che held Xiaoyi's hand and led her into his brother's residential area. In fact, when Su Che's brother received the call, he thought Su Che was joking. Why did he suddenly fall in love and bring her home? Did he understand the family situation clearly? Was she a good girl? His brother was very worried, and little Liden was also unhappy. His uncle had clearly said that he wanted to pursue the owner of the dessert shop at the door. But now he actually likes someone else. So the little guy sat on the sofa in the living room and sulked. Soon, Su Che appeared at his brother's door with Xiaoyi. Brother Su opened the door and saw the girl. Other than feeling that she was beautiful, he also felt that she was very familiar. This is my brother. Brother, this is Xiaoyi. Xiaoyi. Brother Su tried very hard to search for information about this girl in his mind, because he always felt as if he had seen her somewhere. But he could not remember. Come in first. Your call came suddenly. Your sister-in-law hasn't come back from a business trip. Son, come and get her. Little Liden pouted and sat on the sofa, looking as if he didn't want to talk to anyone. Yang, Uncle, you didn't keep your word. You clearly said that you would chase after the dessert lady. The primary school student expressed great resistance and protest. I don't like you, and I don't like her. You are rude. Apologize to Uncle. Elder brother Su quickly scolded his son. Su Che and Xiaoyi looked at each other and smiled. Then take a look. What did Auntie bring you? The primary school student recognized the packaging. It was the cake from the dessert shop. Humph, don't try to bribe me even if you have a cake. The primary school student was very loyal. Su Che was helpless. He looked at Xiaoyi, but her smile did not diminish. Little Liden, I didn't expect you to have such a bad temper. Let me tell you, this is the last cake in our shop. You won't be able to eat it for the next few months. As soon as Xiaoyi finished speaking, the primary school student turned around and looked at Xiaoyi in disbelief. You are that fat lady boss? You lost weight. You're rude. Call me Auntie. Su Che handed the cake to him and knocked him on the head. Don't hit me like that. The teacher said that I'll become stupid. The primary school student expressed his dissatisfaction. I didn't expect you to be so fast. You're worth encouraging. Auntie, coming quickly. You've become so beautiful. Elder brother Sue looked at the primary school student whose emotions changed like a tornado, and his expression looked very helpless. Of course, he did not expect Su Che to really listen to the primary school student's words and pursue the lady boss. After a very pleasant dinner, Xiao Yi played games on the balcony with the primary school student. Elder brother Su tugged at Su Che and asked, I heard that the lady boss was so desperate for a man. What's going on? This was Xiao Yi's past, and Su Che could not erase it. He said to his brother, Brother, Xiao Yi did have a relationship in the past. It wasn't that pleasant, but I know the whole process very well. You have to trust my judgment. I'm afraid that you'll lose your head in love. Don't worry. The person your son likes won't be too bad. Elder brother Su tilted his head and saw that Xiao Yi and his son were having such a good time. He was slightly relieved. If that's the case, then take advantage of it. As an elder brother, I only hope to see you happy. Don't worry. Su Che looked at Xiao Yi, and his gaze became extremely gentle. This was the first time elder brother Su had seen Su Che like this, and he understood that he had fallen in love. It's very late. It's about time you guys go back. The little guy still needs to sleep and go to school. Just come often in the future. Su Che nodded, but little Lydon was reluctant to leave. He pouted. I won't be able to eat delicious cake in the future. If you want to eat it, call your uncle. I'll prepare it for you in advance. You can choose the taste. How about it? Yay! The little guy jumped up. Xiao Yi smiled and rubbed his head. Then, she and Su Che left her brother's house hand in hand. Because they were too full, the two of them took a walk to digest their food. Seeing that Su Che was silent, Xiao Yi leaned on his arm and asked, Does your brother not like me? There were so many bad rumors about me near the neighborhood. I was afraid that he would misunderstand me. You came just like that. I thought you didn't mind how my brother thought of you. Su Che replied with a smile. How could I not care? We'll have to interact for a long time in the future. My brother is a very open-minded person. Even if he had doubts about you before, he made it clear to me just now. In addition, little Lydon likes you so much, so you don't have to worry at all. Actually, I'm the one who should be afraid. I'm afraid that you don't like my family. After Xiao Yi heard this, she smiled slightly. You know that I don't have a complete family, and I don't have any relatives worth getting along with. So after going abroad for half a year, when I saw the way foreign women got along with their families, I was very envious, and I longed for a family from the bottom of my heart. Besides, I also like little Lydon very much. After hearing Xiao Yi's words, Su Che couldn't help but reach out and hug her. From now on, this will also be your home. In a few days, I'll bring you to see my friend. She smiled and leaned against Su Che's chest and nodded. I'm also looking forward to seeing forensic Dr. Mu's autopsy for the second time. Chapter 1002. Su Che and Xiao Yi's lives were extremely simple. During the day, Su Che went to work while Xiao Yi worked in her new shop. At night, the two of them cooked and rested at home, loving each other on the big bed. Sometimes Xiao Yi would also go to the movies. Su Che would buy the movie tickets in advance. The two of them were like ordinary couples, holding popcorn and Coke as they shuttled through the crowd. Soon, Su Che made an appointment for Mu Chichi's anatomy class. After Mu Chichi heard this, she was really shocked. Half a year ago, Su Che was already stupid. How could he still be so stupid half a year later? Why did he like to bring girls to watch her dissection so much? Why did he not go to so many dating places? What was so good about dissection? Mu Chichi seriously suspected that there was something wrong with Su Che's brain. But Su Che smiled and did not say anything. Was this his new trick to pick up girls? No matter what, Mu Chichi still agreed to Su Che's unusual request. So this time, she arranged a particularly disgusting view of the giant. She did not believe that any girl would dare to come next time. At 7 o'clock in the evening, Su Che rode his motorcycle and brought Xiao Yi to the Jianchuan branch office. When the people at the branch office saw that Su Che had brought another girl over after half a year, and it was in the forensics laboratory, They immediately felt that it was unbelievable. Compared to the girl last time, this time it was a beauty. Xiaoyi held back her laughter and followed behind Suche. When the two of them entered the forensics laboratory, they were holding hands. Mu Qiqi saw them at a glance and was a little shocked. It seemed that Suche was serious this time. Suche, why can't you get past my dissection table? Mu Qiqi blocked the terrifying corpse and sat on a chair as she asked Suche. Suche smiled slightly, but Xiaoyi laughed out loud. Forensic Dr. Mu, long time no see. You. Hearing this familiar voice, Mu Qiqi finally understood what was going on. You're the girl who came half a year ago, right? It's me, Xiaoyi. Mu Qiqi came to a sudden realization and glared at Suche. Look at you. It's fine if it's the first time you brought me here. I understand your good intentions, but this is the second time. You're already my girlfriend, and you don't even know to change places. It's not his fault. I wanted to come and observe. Xiaoyi quickly spoke up for Suche. Half a year ago, watching your dissection made me understand the meaning of life. Half a year later, I want to come back and see if my state of mind will change even more. After Mu Qiqi heard this, she gave Xiaoyi a thumbs up. You're a real man, but the one I prepared today is a little, heavy. Maybe after you see it, you won't be able to take it. You'll vomit. It's nothing more than a giant view. I've seen it before. Xiaoyi said calmly. I've been a volunteer in a Middle Eastern country and seen such a scene. I'm not afraid. Then why did you come to see this? You've seen it and felt it. It's definitely more intense than mine. I believe you've already figured out the meaning of life. There's no need for you to suffer again. After Xiaoyi finished laughing, she glanced at Suche and replied. Actually, we're here to pick you up from work. I want to treat you to a meal. You should have said so earlier. Mu Qiqi looked relaxed and stood up from the chair. I'm going to change now. Wait outside. Mu Qiqi had always been a Buddhist when it came to making friends. If their three views were the same, they could get along. If their three views were not the same, there was no need to force it. Now that she saw Suche's girlfriend, she suddenly had a premonition that perhaps their sister group was going to grow stronger again. No wonder Suche's dressing had become more and more exquisite these few days. It turned out that he was no longer single. In order to get everyone to see Suche's girlfriend, Mu Qiqi took advantage of the time. She was changing to send a message to her sister group. Feng Shanshan and Lu Qianqian immediately responded. Even Song Qiaoji asked for the address of the meal. Suche had been a bachelor for 10,000 years. They wanted to see what kind of fairy he had found. Because the women were curious, the men had to accompany them. Tang Yen, Lin Muan, and Sheng Kai were all ordered to get off work early by their wives. However, after doing this, Mu Qiqi suddenly felt a little guilty. What if the other party was a stranger? She had called so many people at once. She didn't know if she would scare them. But who asked Suche not to be honest? Half an hour later, Mu Qiqi and the other two were having dinner in a 5-star hotel owned by Zhongting. Soon, Sheng Xiao picked up his daughter from kindergarten and met up at the hotel. This was the first time Xiaoyi had seen Sheng Xiao in person. He was a super rich man who could rival a country. He was someone who could turn the tides in Jianchuan. Tang Yin and Feng Shanshan, as well as Lu Qianqian and Lin Muan, appeared immediately after them. Xiaoyi was stunned when she saw them. Mu Qiqi smiled. After dinner, let's go to the Sky Garden on the 5th floor for a drink. Also, you don't have to be nervous at all. It would be strange if she wasn't nervous. The people who appeared were all the top figures in Jianchuan. Suche quickly held her palm and whispered in her ear. Relax. I didn't expect so many people to come. Just pretend that you know them. They're all easy to get along with. Seeing the two of them whispering into each other's ears, Mu Qiqi quickly pulled Xiaoyi into the group of women. From now on you belong to us. Only when we go home can you belong to Suche. Mu Qiqi brought Xiaoyi, who was full, to the garden on the 5th floor with Feng Shanshan and the others. It could be seen that they often gathered here, so they were familiar with the place. Xiaoyi was sandwiched between them, and soon reached the heart of the garden. Then, she was pushed onto the sofa by Mu Qiqi. Hurry up and share with us your relationship with Suche. I'm dying of curiosity. Xiaoyi looked at the 3 different types of women surrounding her and realized that they were going to gossip. How did you meet? Why did you suddenly lose so much weight? What have you been doing for the past 6 months? Xiaoyi scratched her head. She really couldn't stand the enthusiasm of these women, so she hurriedly said, "Sit down first and listen to me in detail. You have to understand our feelings. Su Che is already 32 years old. We hate marrying for him." Mu Qiqi sat opposite Xiao Yi and crossed her arms. On the other side, there were also the helpless men, who came one after another. Tang Yin was still in the middle of a meeting when he was called out. Lin Mu and had just returned from a business trip and hadn't even had time to change his clothes. Shen Kai was even worse off. He was halfway through his discussion with the foreign guests when he was scared by Song Qiaoji's call. He thought that something had happened to her. Only Shen Kai was the calmest because he was already used to it. The 3 of them sat beside Su Che. Lin Muan gestured with his chin to Xiao Yi and asked Su Che, "Girlfriend?" "Yes." Su Che nodded. "I can finally understand why these women are crazy." Lin Muan had a look of understanding. These women can talk about everything from astronomy to geography, and then from under the bed to in bed. They can even tell you their abilities in that area. Chapter 1003. Among them, Tang Yin and Sheng Xiao were both fathers, so they naturally had to be different from the other 2. They spent more time on their families. Therefore, Sheng Xiao and Tang Yin did not know that these women could chat so freely. They did not know how they would describe their men's abilities in that aspect. Lin Muan's guess was right. When women gathered together, the gossip would never leave the man. For example, what Mu Qiqi was most concerned about was where Su Che had gone during his 3-day leave. Hearing this, Xiao Yi's face immediately turned red. In those 3 days, she and Su Che had been in love without restraint. Just thinking about it made people feel shy. Seeing Xiao Yi's reaction, how could the married women who had children not understand what was going on? I didn't expect Su Che to be so wild. He came for 3 days. Mu Qiqi could not help but click her tongue. Keep your voices down. It's so embarrassing if they hear us. Xiao Yi quickly covered her face. Mu Qiqi looked at Xiao Yi and said, "Do you think they don't know what we're talking about? If it weren't for Master Xiao and Tang Yin, they wouldn't have been able to judge us. I'm really envious of you guys for dating. You're not an old couple like us. We still have children at home." "I'm not the first," Mu Qiqi said, putting on an act. Lu Qianqian immediately glared at Mu Qiqi. "Come on, enough is enough. Who doesn't know that Master Xiao is famous for doting on his wife? You're still pretending to be obedient after getting what you want. There's no more passion. You won't understand even if I tell you. There's no more passion?" Sheng Xiao sat at the side and used his clairaudient to hear a woman's complaint. Very good. Just like that, Xiao Yi was pulled into Mu Qiqi's group of sisters. From time to time, they could go shopping and drink tea together. It sounded very good. Moreover, Xiao Yi realized that Mu Qiqi, who was not wearing a white coat, had lost her seriousness. She had become straightforward and easy to get along with. They were all very good people. Soon, the women exchanged secrets on a large scale with flushed faces. Then, they were taken home by their respective men. The one who suffered the most was Mu Qiqi. When they stepped out of the hotel, Sheng Xiao behaved as usual. After Mu Qiqi got into the car, he brought her to the revolving restaurant. After entering the room, he pressed her down on the dining table. When Mu Qiqi saw the man taking off his clothes, she quickly said, "What are you doing? Our daughter is still waiting for us at home. You're the one who said that there's no more passion. Today I'll teach you what passion is." With that, Sheng Xiao pressed himself between Mu Qiqi's legs, not allowing her to resist at all. His sharp eyes stared at Mu Qiqi, as if she was a prey on a platter. Mu Qiqi looked at the beautiful Ferris wheel outside the window, and suddenly felt a little hopeless. When did this man's ears become so sharp? At first, she thought that he would be angry and teach her a lesson at most. But she did not expect that she would be put on the table by a certain man that night, in all kinds of positions from all kinds of angles. It was so embarrassing. The scariest thing was that he didn't stop that night. Mu Chichi was tormented until dawn, when she finally blacked out. She swore that she would never say such things behind this man's back again. The other couples were also affectionate when they went home, but they were not as intense as Master Xiao, especially Xiao Yi and Su Che. They were affectionate 2 or 3 times before they turned off the lights and went to sleep. Soon, 3 months had passed, and the previously childish dessert shop had transformed into a very tasteful water bar at the moment. The area was more than 3 times larger, and it was rich and varied. In order not to disappoint the children nearby, the dessert section was still maintained. Moreover, it was a pastry chef personally trained by Xiao Yi. The standard was maintained before she left, and the price did not change. However, Xiao Yi spent more effort on the water bar and bar. She opened the door in another direction, separating it from the dessert shop. After that, Xiao Yi also found many so-called public accounts to promote her, as well as some food experts to come over to scout. Soon, her shop became an online shop that dominated the area. At this time, Kings of Glory's KPL was in the middle of a competition. There were still many customers in the shop who loved to play. Some customers even watched the competition in her shop. However, when she saw that familiar name, her heart no longer wavered. It was as if she was facing a stranger. At the end of the year, Xiao Yi earned enough money, so she dragged Su Che to a luxury car shop to buy herself a Porsche. In fact, at this time, Su Che had the intention to propose. Because Xiao Yi had said that she wanted a home, an equal, free, healthy and warm home. Su Che felt that this was the right time. He had even bought a diamond proposal ring. However, before he could give it away, Xiao Yi received a call from the Volunteer Association, asking her to go abroad to volunteer again. Xiao Yi agreed immediately. She didn't even discuss it with Su Che, and she had been gone for 3 months. Su Che was secretly a little disappointed. In fact, Xiao Yi discovered the ring Su Che had hidden in the bedside table. She understood what Su Che meant, but she wanted to be a volunteer because that was where her new life would begin. Or perhaps, she just wanted to hide the fear in her heart. Su Che, can you wait for me for another 3 months? When I come back from abroad, I'll get married to you. Xiao Yi didn't notice that when she said the word marriage, she might not even be able to convince herself. Su Che shook his head and rejected Xiao Yi's suggestion. The reason why you agreed to volunteer abroad is because you don't want to marry me. So, even if you go out for 3 months, you're still afraid of getting married. Can you tell me why? Su Che didn't get angry, but he was rarely serious. When Xiao Yi saw this, she could only ask truthfully, have you ever found out about my parents? Su Che shook his head. No, because you didn't mention it, and I don't want to open up your scars. My father and mother loved each other very much before they got married. But not long after they got married, my father started to abuse my mother. My mother endured it for 20 years and finally, she couldn't help but end my father's life. She's still in prison. Xiao Yi shrugged helplessly. I grew up in an extremely unsound family environment, and I met such a brother and a scumbag, so I'm very afraid of marriage. I want to have a family with you, but can we not register it? I know this idea is ridiculous, but there's no need to say anything. I understand. Su Che reached out and hugged her. I can wait for you to open up the knot in your heart, but you have to work hard with me. Marriage isn't what you think it is, and I won't allow you to escape. Don't be a volunteer, okay? After Xiao Yi heard this, she nodded. I'm sorry. I seem to have a lot of bad habits. Why didn't you tell me earlier? Su Che didn't mind. He only felt love for her. If you encounter something like this in the future, just tell me directly. Don't run away. Is our relationship that weak? After Xiao Yi heard this, she felt very guilty and quickly gave him a soft kiss. I was wrong. Don't be angry. Chapter 1004. In the following days, the relationship between the two of them was very stable. Xiao Yi was busy opening the next chain store, while Su Che was still busy by Sheng Zhao's side. The two of them never forced each other to contact each other. If they missed each other, They would take the initiative to call each other and say, "I miss you." At night, the two of them cooked together. Occasionally, when they were in the mood, they would be lovey-dovey in the kitchen. Xiao-yi liked the space and freedom that Su-che gave her, because it represented Su-che's absolute trust. From time to time, Xiao-yi would bring the cake to see little Litten. Su-che's big brother would also ask the two of them when they planned to settle down. Xiao-yi didn't want brother Su to misunderstand Su-che, so she took the initiative to explain that it was her problem. She hoped that brother Su could give her some time to have the courage to believe in marriage. Since the girl was so honest, brother Su couldn't say much. He just advised her not to think too long, because some things had to be experienced to know. Xiao-yi knew it herself, but she just couldn't muster up the courage, even though there were many times when she had the urge to register with Su-che immediately. It was another winter, and the little princess of the Sheng family was about to turn 4. Muqiqi had called long ago to urge Xiao-yi. The party was about to start, so why wasn't she here yet? During this period of time, Xiao-yi had opened many branches in Jianchuan. She was already a wealthy woman, but because of this, she became much busier. Sometimes it was 1 or 2 in the morning when she got home. Xiao-yi naturally wouldn't miss the little princess's birthday. After apologizing to Muqiqi over the phone, she immediately packed her things and left. But just as she put on her coat and went out with her keys, she suddenly saw a familiar figure. "Xiao-yi, save me." The person knelt in front of Xiao-yi with a thud. Xiao-yi was a little shocked because she had never thought that she would actually see this person. "Emo and Nan. I'm in a lot of debt now, and I have nowhere else to go." Xiao-yi put on her clothes and coldly called for the security guard. "Do as you see fit. I still have something to do, so I'll be leaving first." Seeing this scumbag again, Xiao-yi had almost no emotions. Perhaps, Su-che had long since healed the pain in her heart. With that, Xiao-yi took her bag and was about to leave. However, Emo and Nan took out a dagger from his pocket and pointed it at his neck, threatening Xiao-yi. "If you don't help me today, I'll die in your shop." Xiao-yi looked at Emo and Nan's childish actions and sneered. She shook her head. "Forget it. Consider it a punishment for being blind back then." With that, she took out her phone and dialed the number for the police. Emo and Nan was shocked when he saw this, because he did not expect Xiao-yi to be so cold-hearted now. "You can die here. I'll call the police for you. The police will come and collect your body." With that, Xiao-yi put away her phone and turned around. At this moment, Su-che pushed open the door and entered. At this critical moment, Su-che suddenly reached out to hug Xiao-yi tightly and quickly turned around. The tip of Emo and Nan's knife pierced through Su-che's jacket, and dark red blood immediately flowed out. Su-che. After Su-che helped Xiao-yi steady herself, he comforted her. "It's fine. It's just a superficial wound." When the security guard saw this, he quickly stepped forward and stopped Emo and Nan. "I called you just now, but you didn't answer. I wanted to tell you about this. This scumbag slept with the club boss's woman and was trapped in bed. Now not only has he been kicked out of the club, but he also owes tens of millions of yuan." After hearing Su-che's explanation, Xiao-yi immediately said anxiously, "What does this have to do with me? I'm worried about you." Su-che glanced at his wound and touched Xiao-yi's hair. "It's really just a small injury. I'll send you to the banyan courtyard first. Leave this to me." Xiao-yi took a deep breath and nodded. "I agree to your arrangement, but you have to bandage me first and let me see your wound." The waiter in the shop quickly went to get the first aid kit. Su-che couldn't argue with Xiao-yi, so he took off his jacket and let her see the wound. Unexpectedly, in just a few minutes, blood had already dyed his shirt red. "And you said it's a small injury? It's almost to the bone." Xiao-yi immediately burst into tears. "You're my girlfriend. If I don't protect you, who will?" Su-che sat on the chair and watched Xiao-yi press his wound. He didn't even frown. At this moment, Xiao-yi was silent. After the bandaging was done, she hugged Su-che tightly, because she suddenly understood a truth. Whether a marriage was happy or not, the key was who you married. Su-che and that scumbag were worlds apart, so she didn't know what she was hesitating about. "I'll drive to the banyan courtyard myself. Your arm needs to rest for the time being." Then be careful on the way. After I'm done here, I'll come over immediately. Suche didn't force himself, because he knew that Xiao Yi would be worried. Xiao Yi nodded and helped Suche put on his clothes. Then she picked up her bag again and left the shop. When she walked out of the shop, she deliberately turned around to look at Mo and Nan, who was pressed to the ground. If he dared to hurt Suche, she would find the best lawyer and make Mo and Nan regret it for the rest of his life. Afraid that Suche would cause a commotion when he arrived at the banquet, Xiao Yi immediately drove home to get clean clothes for Suche. However, after entering the door, she felt her stomach churn. Just now, when she saw the blood, she felt faintly uncomfortable. Now she was lying on the bathroom floor and vomiting. It had been like this for the past few days. After Xiao Yi finished vomiting, she looked up at herself in the mirror. A thought suddenly flashed through her mind. Maybe she had a child? Thinking of this possibility, Xiao Yi rushed out of the door and went straight to the nearby pharmacy to buy a pregnancy test. After returning home, she immediately opened the packaging and placed all the products she had bought from the pharmacy on the sink. There were 10 of them. A minute later, the pregnancy test gave her the answer. They were all 2 bright horizontal lines. Was she pregnant? At this moment, Xiao Yi's emotions were very complicated. Because she was obviously not prepared to welcome a new life, she couldn't even muster the courage to get married. But now she was actually pregnant. Did she hate this feeling? Actually, she didn't. So Xiao Yi subconsciously stroked her flat lower abdomen. It was in this place that she and Suche had a child. It was with Suche. Not long after, Suche called to ask where Xiao Yi had gone. Xiao Yi immediately put away all the pregnancy tests and answered Suche that she would go home and get clean clothes for him. She couldn't tell Suche immediately, because she knew that being pregnant meant getting married. But she wasn't ready yet. She needed to think about it carefully and let herself digest the news first. Chapter 1005. For the next few days, Xiao Yi didn't know how to speak to Suche. Every time the words were on the tip of her tongue, she really wanted to say them, but she felt that it wasn't the best time. During the period when Suche's arm was injured, he couldn't exert any strength at all in the first few days. Xiao Yi's heart ached when she saw this. At the same time, she felt that she was too selfish. In fact, Suche could feel that Xiao Yi wanted to say something these few days, but she hesitated. He was very stubborn and didn't ask because he really wanted to hear Xiao Yi take the initiative to speak. However, even when his injury was healed, Xiao Yi still couldn't tell him the secret in her heart. Although he felt that he had used enough patience with Xiao Yi, sometimes, he would still be hurt by her unconscious actions. This state lasted for a week. A week later, Tang Yin personally called Sheng Xiao to borrow Suche. There was a joint operation that needed Suche's agile skills. For some reason, when he received this mission, Suche heaved a sigh of relief. The unwillingness to face Xiao Yi every day was almost suffocating him. That night, Suche went home to pack his luggage. When Xiao Yi saw this, she panicked. "You're leaving?" When Suche saw Xiao Yi's nervous expression, the depression in his heart was relieved. "I have a mission. I have to go on a business trip for a few days." "How many days? Is it dangerous? When will you be back? You didn't even discuss it with me." Hearing her question, Suche closed his suitcase and looked at Xiao Yi seriously. "It'll take about 4 days. It's a high-risk operation. If nothing unexpected happens, I should be back on Friday." Xiao Yi was even more flustered when she got the answer. "Do you have to go?" Suche put down his suitcase and held Xiao Yi's hand. His tone was a little helpless. "I know you have something you want to say to me, but you can't open your mouth. Sometimes, I wonder if I'm the closest person to you. Why can't you believe me wholeheartedly until now? And you're not willing to give your heart to me. I thought I wouldn't mind. I could continue to wait, but sometimes I realize I'm also a human and ordinary man. When I received this mission, I don't know why, but I actually felt a little lucky, because I couldn't continue to deceive myself. Xiao Yi, I'm not a blockhead. I can feel that my place in your heart isn't that important. I'll be gone for 4 days. You should think about it carefully. If you're sure that you can't give me your heart, I think we can choose another relationship. There's no need to force each other. After hearing Su Che's words, Xiaoyi was stunned. She even felt a little overwhelmed. She thought she had hidden it well, but in fact, that was not the case at all. Su Che, it's not like that. Can you not leave? Su Che shook his head. You can't see yourself clearly when I'm by your side. Besides, a life is at stake. Everyone is waiting for me. Take good care of yourself in the next few days. I believe you can do it. After that, Su Che squatted down and picked up the suitcase. Then, without waiting for Xiao Yi to continue, he quickly walked out of his house. He didn't want to say something that would hurt their relationship, but if he didn't say it now, his chest would explode. Therefore, they could take advantage of these 4 days to calm down. Xiaoyi watched helplessly as Su Che left. Tears immediately flowed out of her eyes. She didn't know why she still lacked courage even now. She was clearly no longer the same person she used to be. The day after Su Che left, Xiaoyi called Mu Qiqi. Now, only Mu Qiqi could untie the knot in her heart. The two of them agreed to meet at the branch office. Mu Qiqi knew that Xiaoyi hadn't slept all night. Did something happen with Su Che? Su Che said that I don't love him enough and asked me to calm down for a few days. Xiaoyi replied sickly. Actually, we've already discussed this matter in private. The conclusion is that you really don't love Su Che enough. First of all, you don't believe in him, so you're afraid of marriage. Second, you don't care about him enough. You're always immersed in whether others hurt you or not. So the conclusion is that you love yourself the most. At this moment, as a member of Su Che's family, Mu Qiqi was very straightforward. Love is a very special thing. You can tell with a glance whether the other party loves you or not. I don't know how long Su Che has endured it. Anyway, I rarely feel love for Su Che from you. Xiaoyi immediately fell into an even deeper panic. Qiqi, I've been hurt for many years. I really don't know how to love, and I don't know how to trust someone. But I know fear. When Su Che said that he was leaving, I was very afraid. I was afraid that he wouldn't come back. I was afraid that he would really give up on our relationship. You're right. I'm extremely selfish. I really deserve to die. Just look at your heart clearly. Isn't that fine? I believe that's why Su Che left. Mu Qiqi patted her shoulder to show encouragement. Think about it yourself. How far are you willing to go for Su Che? You have to know that the injury on his arm hasn't fully healed yet. Mu Qiqi deliberately scared Xiaoyi. After Xiaoyi heard this, her face turned pale. After returning home, Xiaoyi sat on the steps all day and looked around. Sometimes, she cried bitterly, especially when she thought about how Su Che had been injured because of her, and had even gone out to carry out a high-risk mission. Her heart ached like needles. Just like that, 3 days passed. Su Che finally appeared at the door of his house with his luggage. Xiaoyi sat on the steps and immediately pounced on him when she saw him. In fact, when he was carrying out the mission, Su Che had already thought it through. Anyway, he had already waited for so long. So what if he continued to wait? But Xiaoyi's actions made him ecstatic. You're finally back, Sob. I'm fine. Su Che quickly held her up. How many days have you not rested well? Why are you in such a sorry state? After you left, I regretted not telling you earlier. I was afraid that after you came back, you'd think it through and think that I was too selfish and want to break up with me. I thought about what to do every day and couldn't sleep at all. Xiaoyi cried out. After hearing Xiaoyi's aggrieved tone, Su Che was satisfied. This person actually had love in her heart, but she didn't know the depth of it. It's not good for the neighbors to see it at the gate. I'm also very tired. Can we go home first? Su Che was a little helpless. Wait for me to finish my last sentence. Xiaoyi raised her tearful eyes and looked at Su Che seriously. You're going to be a father. Also, I won't hide anything from you anymore. Su Che hugged Xiaoyi and held her face in disbelief. Is what you said true? Chapter 1006. Of course it's true. I was hesitant for the past few days, because I didn't know how to tell you. I was afraid that you would immediately take me to register for marriage. I wasn't ready yet. But I thought about it a lot these past few days. I think I was too selfish. After hearing Xiao Yi's words, Su Che carried her horizontally and quickly walked home. Since you know you're pregnant, why don't you take good care of yourself? I've been scared for a few days. Xiao Yi hugged Su Che's neck, her tone also very aggrieved. Su Che sighed, suddenly regretting his decision to go out and calm down. If something really happened to Xiao Yi and the child because of this, he would never forgive himself for the rest of his life. I actually didn't want to break up with you. It's my fault for saying those words out of anger. Su Che gently placed Xiao Yi on the sofa and squatted in front of her. In the future, no matter how angry I am, I will never say such outrageous words to you. No, it's not like that. It's my fault. It's my fault for not caring about you enough. Xiao Yi said guiltily. You're right, and so is Chi-Chi. If you really love someone, you can even give him your life. Why would you be afraid of marrying him? When you were by my side, I didn't know how to cherish you. But after you left, I realized how scared I was. Since we're all wrong, let's turn the page, okay? Now that I'm back, I'll never leave you again. I won't turn the page. I want to keep this fear in my heart, because only then can I remember the horror of losing you. And only then can I cherish the time I spent with you. Xiao Yi answered seriously. Su Che didn't know what to do with her, so he turned around and went out to get his luggage. During the entire process, Xiao Yi's gaze was on Su Che, as if he was going to leave at any moment. Have you been to the hospital since you found out you were pregnant? Su Che returned to her side after putting away his luggage. Xiao Yi shook her head. After you left, I didn't go anywhere other than Chi-Chi's place. Su Che sighed slightly. Then, he took out his phone and asked for Song Qiaoji's number. Xiao Yi had been in such a sorry state for the past few days. He didn't know if her depressed mood would affect her body. Go up and change. I'll take you to the hospital for a checkup. But, we haven't registered yet. Will we be laughed at? Xiao Yi covered her face and asked. Do you need to show your marriage certificate to the hospital? Su Che urged her. Go. In fact, Song Qiaoji, who received Su Che's call, was also quite shocked. When she heard that there was a problem with his relationship with Xiao Yi, Song Qiaoji thought that the two of them might end up going their separate ways. She didn't expect Su Che to suddenly call her to ask for her number. She was an obstetrician. The only explanation was that Xiao Yi was pregnant. An hour later, the two of them appeared at Jianchuan Hospital hand in hand. Seeing their loving expressions, Song Qiaoji understood that Xiao Yi was definitely pregnant. Then, Song Qiaoji performed a full-body checkup on Xiao Yi. According to the report, everything is normal at the moment. The fetus is 53 days old, and it's still considered healthy. However, because it was an accident, all the nutrients that should be replenished have to be replenished. Xiao Yi will have to do more screening in the future. After hearing Song Qiaoji's words, Su Che was finally relieved. Then, do I need to have any ideas? You don't smoke or drink. Live a healthy daily life and work and rest regularly. You just need to maintain this state. As for the rest, it's just that Xiao Yi is working hard. As a father-to-be, you have to be more considerate, Song Qiaoji instructed. When you're free, read more books about this. There's a lot of them online. All right. Su Che scratched his nose excitedly. Oh right, there's one more thing. We can't delay it anymore. Hurry up and register our marriage, Song Qiaoji reminded the two of them. Chapter 1007. Since she already had a child in her stomach, she naturally had to plan for marriage. However, because Xiao Yi was afraid of marriage, Su Che didn't force her to respond now. He only confirmed the health of the child in Xiao Yi's stomach before bringing her home. After returning home, Xiao Yi hugged Su Che from behind. Her mouth was still filled with resentment. I'm really not a good girlfriend. I'm injured. If you continue hugging me, the wound will open again. Su Che interrupted her nagging. After Xiao Yi heard this, she quickly let go. Then, she pulled off his clothes and carefully examined his body. She found that there was gauze on his waist and abdomen. Her eyes immediately turned red. I didn't do it on purpose. I don't blame you, so don't cry. Suche put on his clothes and placed Xiao Yi on the sofa. I don't know anything now, so I have to call Big Brother and ask sister-in-law to come over. After all, she has experience. Xiao Yi felt very wronged. But she didn't continue to pester Suche. She even felt that she was really annoying and a little cheap. Previously, Suche had treated her so well, but she didn't know how to cherish him. Now, she only knew how to stare at him and knew that she cared. It was all her fault. Can you call Big Brother and sister-in-law tomorrow? Stay with me like this tonight? When Suche heard this pitiful plea, he immediately stopped dialing. He sat back down beside her and hugged her. Now you know how important I am. Yes, these few days, the feeling of worrying about gains and losses is too uncomfortable. I finally know why you were angry before. It was my fault. Perhaps it was because a pregnant woman's temper had become more sensitive. So no matter how hard Suche tried to persuade her, he couldn't. He had thought that Xiao Yi would improve in a few days. But after a week, Xiao Yi had become more and more clingy. Friday was a day for a group of people to gather. This was initiated by Muqiqi. Her intention was to let friends put down their identities and estrangement, and be able to communicate as equals. When she heard that Xiao Yi was pregnant, Muqiqi clamored to see the pregnant woman. This was because she had heard that Xiao Yi had been dying for Suche during this period of time. Muqiqi also wanted to see how obsessed she was. From the moment the two of them entered the door, Muqiqi saw their hands held together, their fingers tightly interlocked. Xiao Yi's gaze at Suche was finally filled with admiration and obsession. This was the most direct evidence that one person liked another. Then, the man and the woman sat in two different areas. However, Xiao Yi felt uneasy about being separated from Suche. Even when she was with Muqiqi and the others, her eyes were always looking in the man's direction. Now you know that Suche is fine? Muqiqi couldn't help but laugh at her. You used to be so carefree. You can't bear to leave for just a while. Yes, I didn't know Suche was so charming before, Xiao Yi admitted generously in front of the women. I admit that I was blind in the past. Now that you know your true feelings, why don't you marry Suche? Su, I marry him. Muqiqi was and said. Xiaoche of Muche. Ah. I came here today for a very important matter. I want to ask you all, what should I do if I want to propose to Suche? Muqiqi glanced at Lu Qianqian. The two of them seemed to understand Xiao Yi's coolness. Muqiqi glanced at Lu Qianqian. The two of them seemed to have immediately understood Xiao Yi's coolness. Are you going to propose to Suche? He's proposing to me. Do I need to ask you? He's proposing to me. Do I need to ask you? Xiao Yi frowned and looked at the two of them. You know that I'm pregnant now and haven't experienced this. I just want to know, what can I do to make Suche believe that I've really fallen in love with him? Chapter 1008. Do whatever you want to do for him. Loving someone means that you want to give him the best things from the bottom of your heart. Over time, he will believe it without a doubt. Muqiqi was very experienced in this matter. Then I want to give him a surprise. Can you help me? Xiao Yi winked at the two of them. No problem. Muqiqi made an okay gesture, and Lu Qianqian nodded vigorously. Fortunately, Suche still had to work. Otherwise, she really didn't know where to find an opportunity. As long as the time is right, give us a call. Muqiqi was very excited. The people around her got married in a muddle. None of them proposed seriously. Now that someone was proposing, of course she had to watch the show. Then I'll get ready when I go back tonight. Xiao Yi listened to the two sisters' words and looked at Muqiqi's earlobe. In fact, she had always been very curious as to why Muqiqi had tattooed English on her earlobe. Is there any special story behind this? Xiao Yi pointed at Muqiqi's ear and asked. This? Muqiqi tilted her ear to show Xiao Yi. It's my man's English name. When I was young, I didn't know any better. You'd better not say such things. Do you still remember why you were taught a lesson last time? Lu Qianqian quickly reminded her. Muqiqi quickly covered her mouth and looked around to make sure that Sheng Xiao was not nearby. Only then did she dare to continue. I was indeed immature. Now that I think about it, I think it was very childish. Lu Qianqian was no longer interested in her way of showing off their affection, so she directly cut her off. Xiaoyi was very touched. You must have been very infatuated with CEO Sheng in the past. Actually, what Mu Qiqi wanted to say was that she was also very infatuated with him now, okay? Although she would verbally despise him, she still loved him in her heart. Ahem, the focus now is on you guys. Look at us couples. We're either married or have children. You guys are the only ones who haven't registered yet. I'll plan it when I get back tonight. Xiao Yi also made an okay gesture. How much courage did it take for a woman to subvert tradition and propose to a man? Xiao Yi didn't know, but she just wanted to do it. Su Che had done enough for her. This time, it was her turn to take the initiative. Su Che didn't know why, but ever since he came back from the party that day, Xiao Yi had stopped sticking to him. He didn't know if it was because of Mu Qiqi's persuasion. She seemed to have returned to her former self. Although Su Che faintly felt that it was a pity, he needed Xiao Yi to establish a sense of security. However, gradually Su Che felt that something was wrong. In the past few days, Xiao Yi had started to ignore him again. She was even very impatient. Could it be because she was pregnant? Because of this, Su Che didn't dare to mention marriage, because he was afraid that he would scare Xiao Yi away again. Mu Qiqi had seen Su Che a few times during this period, and found that he was listless. She couldn't go forward to dissuade him, because Xiao Yi was preparing a surprise for him behind his back. Other people would propose at night, because it was romantic, but Xiao Yi's plan was in the morning, because she had prepared 2 wedding rings and a groom's outfit for Su Che. She wanted to go to the Civil Affairs Bureau to register with Su Che after the proposal. If he proposed at night, Su Che could still set it up at work during the day. But if he proposed in the morning, how could he prepare it? This made Mu Qiqi in a difficult position. She just wanted to knock Su Che out with a stick and wake him up in the morning. In the end, Mu Qiqi handed this difficult task to Tang Yan. She asked Chief Tang to call Su Che out to do something as long as it wasn't a dangerous task. She also asked Master Xiao to cooperate. Su Che was confused. Tang Yan sent him to City B for one night. As he was worried about leaving Xiao Yi alone at home, he called his sister-in-law to accompany him. Xiao Yi took the wedding ring that she had ordered, the dress that she had made, and the roses that had been flown in. She gathered all her good friends. Tomorrow morning, she was going to complete the most important thing in her life. Chapter 1009. Su Che was inexplicably busy for the whole night. Tang Yin had asked him to come to J City to follow a suspect, but he didn't think that the suspect was an extremely evil person. An ordinary police force could do it. Most importantly, after daybreak, Tang Yin asked him to hand over the mission to someone else. There were no further instructions, so he could go home directly. Su Che didn't close his eyes. After all, there was a pregnant woman at home, so he rode his motorcycle back to Jianchuan without stopping. After the motorcycle entered the villa, Su Che didn't see any changes in the house because his thoughts were all on the pregnant woman. He was afraid that Xiao Yi would be angry if he didn't go home for the whole night. Or rather, he didn't care at all. After parking the motorcycle, Su Che smiled self-deprecatingly. He was clearly going to be a father soon, but he was still so careful. It seemed that he had to find a time to have a good talk with Xiao Yi. After thinking it through, Su Che opened the door and entered the living room. However, the moment he pushed the door open, other than being shocked, he also suspected that he had gone to the wrong place. So, he subconsciously went out, confirmed the house number, and came in again. Because the entire living room was immersed in a sea of white and red roses, champagne, candles, balloons, and streamers. There was also a red arrow sign at the stairs. Su Che slowed down and slowly walked toward the bedroom on the second floor. However, he found that there was a sentence written on the bedroom door. If you've thought it through, push the door open and come in. Why would Su Che need to think about it? He reached out and opened the door. After the door opened, the first thing that entered his eyes was the groom's dress, hanging in front of the window sill. Then, he saw the heart-shaped pattern of candles on the ground. At this moment, Suche's emotions were very complicated. Although he had a guess in his heart, he didn't dare to believe it. He was afraid that he would overthink things. But this was his and Xiao Yi's house. If these weren't prepared for him, who were they for? However, Xiao Yi didn't say that it was for him, so he didn't have the confidence to believe it. Suche slowly walked to the gown and reached out his hand. But just as he was about to touch the material, Xiao Yi's voice suddenly came from behind him. "Does the gown look good?" Suche turned around and saw Xiao Yi standing in front of him in a white veil. It was a simple white veil, but it gave him a solemn feeling. "I know you're very sleepy right now, and I know you want to rest. But can you please change into a formal dress and register our marriage?" After hearing Xiao Yi's words, Suche felt as if he was in a dream. Everything in front of him was so unreal. So, he lowered his head and tried his best to believe everything in front of him. Suche raised his head again, still in disbelief. He asked, "So, you've been ignoring me all this time just to prepare this? You and I are too close. How can I hide it from you?" Xiao Yi explained very seriously. "I thought. Do you think I'm still the same as before? That I don't know how to cherish you? It's not like that. I just want to propose to you. I want you to be my husband. I want you to stay by my side forever." Xiao Yi quickly hugged Suche and explained, "I just wanted to give you a surprise. I didn't mean to alienate you." After Suche heard this, all the anxiety and fear from before were firmly settled in his heart. Do you want to marry me?" After saying that, Xiao Yi broke free from his embrace and took out the wedding ring she had prepared from the bedside cabinet. She prepared to kneel on one knee for Suche. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.